Broken Fathers podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. If you are going through the family law court process, particularly as a father, then this podcast may be relevant to what you may experience. Some things we discuss in these episodes may be triggering, and if you suffer from any form of mental health related conditions or subject to domestic or family violence and need any assistance, then please call 1-800-RESPECT and Lifeline. The views and experiences discussed by people on our show are not necessarily the views and opinions of Broken Fathers podcast or their guest speakers. We strongly advise you seek your own independent legal and professional advice, as the Broken Fathers podcast will not be liable, answerable, or accountable for any loss or damage or litigation resulting from discussions on our platform. Right, this podcast is now in session. Hold on, guys. The judge is running late to court. So whilst we wait, I'd like to take this moment to acknowledge our platinum sponsor, Straight Up Construction. At Straight Up Construction, they take pride in delivering high-end work across every trade. From new builds to renovations, no job is too big or too small. Director Luke Miller and his dedicated team tackle every project with integrity, hard work, honesty, and a commitment to delivering superior quality results every time. Straight Up Construction is built on the belief that strong foundations matter just as much in the bones of a home as they do in the heart of one. Families should stand strong, and every loving parent should maintain their right to be a part of their children's lives. Straight Up Construction believes that in true Aussie spirit, everyone deserves a fair go. That's why we're proud to have Straight Up Construction as our platinum sponsor. With their support, we continue to produce the Broken Fathers podcast and shine a light on the struggles of men who have been let down by the system. Good morning, listeners and viewers, and welcome back to the Broken Fathers podcast. In today's episode, I'm joined by Jeffrey Morgan, a 51-year-old father of 3 kids hailing from Sydney. Jeff's story is a powerful one. He ran away from home at the age of 12 due to abuse and experienced homelessness. Growing up on Eveleigh Street in Redfern, a place where, as Jeff describes, going to jail was almost a rite of passage. Adding to the hardships he faced, Jeff lost both of his parents to cancer, and tragically, his sister and brother died by suicide. He's also known for a period in his life where he became one of Australia's most prolific bank robbers, spending 20 years in and out of Australia's maximum security prisons between 1991 and 2010. Now, what is beyond what is publicly known, Jeff also navigated back and forth through the child support system for 7 years. He joins me here today. Mate, thanks and welcome.
Thanks for having me, brother. A big introduction, and let's share some magic to those that might be going through what I went through, in hope that they see a smoother and easier path than we probably have.
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, with all my guests, I always like to acknowledge my guests that travel from other states. They've taken time out of the day, spent their own money, accommodation, cars. So I always like that to make that known, especially for all other listeners and viewers, because not only do I appreciate, but also the viewers and listeners. So
Brother.
Yeah, I do appreciate that.
I think what you do is amazing, just really quickly, and we know the impact it has on fathers, on people, on both sides. We've got to look at both. I always say look at both sides, as much as we might not want to sometimes.
Yeah.
I always say, how can we both get the best interest and outcome of the environment? And in the end, that's the child having both parents involved as maturely as they possibly can in the space that they're currently in. And if that means they're separated, how can you still be great role models? And going at each other ain't that space. So how can we improve that?
Absolutely, mate. I agree, mate. I'm quite up to date with your story. I've listened to a few podcasts you've been on, but for my viewers, they might not know. So, like all my guests, I like to start back from day one. Mate, what was life like for Jeff? Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Born in Paddington, New South Wales. Funnily enough, it's a sort of richest suburb back then. And then grew up obviously in Redfern, in and amongst it. And for us, the block, or Eveleigh Street, Redfern, one of Australia's most notorious streets for the wrong reasons, running riots with police, crime was normal, domestic violence was in and amongst it, and bad relationships. Well, they were bad relationships, but they were just built wrong. And when I say built wrong, we weren't educated, we didn't have the role models, doesn't justify it. We just didn't know what a good choice was. We never saw it, and no one taught us, and we just rolled out with what we thought was normal. And it was one of those suburbs where you try and get a cab into the area and they'd be like, get out. Uni students were told to walk from Central rather than Redfern, which is a lot longer. towards the uni, even though that was close to Redfern Station. Those sorts of things. It was just very notorious. A lot of bank robbers from the area. A lot of, you go to jail and everyone knew the block or people from Redfern. It's crazy that we thought that was okay. And cool.
Yeah. Mate, we have to address this real quick. Being Redfern and your Rabbitohs supporter.
No. Everyone's going to be like, turn the potty off. When I was a kid, like younger, I grew up, Dad was more St. George supporter, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't really pick my team. The Broncos come in and they had all the
Wendell Saylor and
like
Gordon
that
Tallis.
period. But before that, they even Wally Lewis and I just jumped Gene Miles and I was like, I'm jumping on this team. And the rest was history. We haven't been that good lately, so
yeah. Mate, growing up on, so is it Eveleigh Street? Is that how you pronounce it?
Eveleigh Street, yeah.
Mate, I'm aware of some of the stories, but mate, what's some of this like? What was life like there? I suppose looking back now, you at that time you probably thought it was normal, right?
Just like a brick. Police car would drive by and you'd try and peg the brick through the front window and literally try and take out the police officer. And we thought that was totally normal. And uncles before us or brothers that were older than us were doing the same thing. So we just went, well, that's what we do, right? And it was a period where, I'm 51 years of age and obviously the stolen generation coming through.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hatred towards non-Aboriginal people. I say non-Aboriginal because I don't get into the racism side of things now as a proud Aboriginal man. I'm huge on putting unity in community, and that means we're all human beings in the end. We all got enough stress, especially like you don't know what someone's going through. I was thinking about sitting at an airport the other day, and I was wondering someone could have lost their loved one, or whether they broke up in a relationship or someone had died, and we're sitting there thinking that everyone's just having a great day, and little do we know what's going on inside of somebody. So, I look back on those moments and. Unfortunately, I was just built wrong. Or I wasn't built at all, probably a better term. And therefore, the choices I made were from an uneducated point of view. And once I got old enough and wise enough, I've made better ones. And, for us as Australians, let's all get on and how do we merge that together so that we all are happy in the environment we're in. And, especially with the world and the way the courts are at the moment, especially on what we're talking about, I think it's very important for people to understand that.
Yeah. Mate, what was home life like? Mum and dad?
Just dysfunctional, I suppose. Dad, Friday afternoon, as an example, opened the fridge. It'd be this afternoon and, mate, he'd be up the tab, betting. There was a BMX track next door, so he'd send me across there with the bike, and I thought it was what a great dad, take me out the BMX track every day. Mate, he was taking me up because the tab was next door. And we'd get home. Then when we were at home, he was a baker. There was no dinner, but there was Danishes or anything from the. I was like, "How good's life?" Young kid. As you get older, you realise it was just his dysfunction. Mum was part of that stolen well, she wasn't part of the just coming through with the family, and it just rolled on to. They didn't have emotional regulation back then. There wasn't the internet information. You'd have to go out and seek it. So therefore, they just went out and made the choices around how they felt they'd best manage their emotions, alcohol, drugs, dysfunction. And you mix those two together, they meet in a nightclub and the rest is history. By the age of 10, I'm sitting on Redfern Street, Redfern, a specific spot. I could literally show you the spot, even, to this day scarred in my memory. Who do you want to live with? And I'm like looking up at both parents saying, both of you. And they're like, no, you got to choose one. That sort of basically tells you where the relationship was and the level of, maturity in both of them to be asking a 10-year-old kid who you want to live with. Just crazy.
Yeah. Mate, siblings?
7.
Yep.
7, yeah.
All from same mum and dad?
No, all different mums. Same mums, different fathers.
Yep.
Except for one. And different mother.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Mate, and how old were you when one of your sisters and brothers, they took their lives?
I would have been 2016, so 5 years, 9 years ago. Far out. That's the age showing.
Yeah.
9 years ago, so I was, let's say, 42.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty sad, man.
Close with them?
Yeah, I played footy that year too, That was harshest thing, I suppose. You played footy that year, the year before with him, and possible contract in Victoria, playing AFL at the time, and goes down there and ends up being found out the back of our uncle's place. So it's just you look at that, and same thing. This whole podcast, being able to talk as men, one of the biggest things I definitely passed on, and what helped me shift and change from who I was to who I am was the vulnerability I had in myself, and coming to you and say, hey, I'm not having a good day, and having those people around you that you can be that vulnerable and can feel that safe to say that to you, where someone's not going to say, come on, man, just man up and get on with it. We know the depth of the hurt within fathers, including myself, that's gone through these things, and just how we feel in those moments. During this, I'd pay respects to probably 50 men that I've known that have taken their lives.
Yeah, wow.
Over this stuff, like 50 men, solid, easy. Personally, that I knew, and that's just, it's an insane number.
It is.
It's crazy. Like, they went to war over less people being killed. So it's sad that 50 men thought that was their only option.
Yeah, it's crazy. 41 Australian soldiers killed during that time in Afghan, and at the time, I don't know if you've heard of Jimmy Judge. He's an crazy eating champion getting around Australia. He jumped in with me, and at the time we checked the stats. It was 46 men a day taking their lives.
Wow.
A week. 46 men a week taking their lives. And we tried to raise awareness, and I was thinking, I should pack march for 46 kilometres, but that's my old mind thinking, you're not in the army anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so I thought, why don't we do like 46 cheeseburgers, like try and, raise awareness. So, I'm a big eater, but he outdid me. But yeah, the stats are crazy, So did 46, you find
that's insane?
46 a week at the time? It's probably, I suppose, it fluctuates.
And you look at that. Like, if that was a road toll, we'd be all like, put these signs up, put these barriers up, run these awareness campaigns,
change the speed limit,
And then I go to this event every year, and they lay out all the men that have taken their lives on the lawns of Parliament. And big shout out to Paulo and what he does there around bringing awareness to men who have taken their life, died by suicide. So, and I look at those shoes and I think, how many men went through the courts, or like, what are the stories to these? They were the actual shoes of the men, so the families gave, and it's on my page if someone wants to go looking for it.
Hey guys, just a quick shout out to our gold sponsors. MCH Industries are a mining maintenance specialist company supplying solutions to the coal mining industry in the Bowen Basin and regional New South Wales. They supply superintendents, supervisors, leading hands, diesel fitters, tyre fitters, auto electricians, HV electricians, and trade assistants to assist. The mining one-stop shop for mechanical trades. MCH Industries are always looking for good blokes to jump on the team, so check out their Instagram for more details. And are you looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate? There's only one name that's been leading the way for over 123 years, Ray White. Ray White isn't just another real estate brand. It's a family business built on ambition, trust, and leadership. Today, it stands as the largest real estate group in Australasia, connecting people with homes and investments across the country. Whether you're a first-time buyer, a seasoned investor, or looking for that perfect home, Ray White is committed to delivering authentic, local expertise. Because real estate isn't just about properties, it's about people, communities, and futures. And when it comes to trusted leadership, meet Alex Ilyan, an ex-army veteran turned dedicated real estate agent. Alex knows what it means to serve, to strategize, and to get the job done. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or just have questions, Alex is here to guide you every step of the way, servicing the Geelong, Bellarine, and Surf Coast areas. Ray White, the name you can trust in real estate.
And it's just, we've got to be able to have a better outcome. I always say, even in the domestic violence situation, what happens, right? Someone does it, let's say I'm the perpetrator, everyone isolates me and no one talks to me, right? What do you reckon my next behaviour will be at the next opportunity? Same thing. So in a situation where the same principles around this kid, if we keep seeing men check out, what do you reckon the potential, if you've got a higher risk of doing so, and that was a business and you were succeeding and it was continuously happening all the time, we continue that pathway. Now, if these men, 46 a week, are going, why would we continue? I just, you've got to ask yourself, how do we get in? And as a whole, male and female, be better, and the court systems, and it's just something that we need to definitely work on. And the best solution is talking about the root cause and how we water that, rather than water the branches and let's protect somebody over here, but forget about others over here. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, the DV thing needs to be addressed, which I'll touch on later. But we'll stay on your track. Mate, what are some of the other sort of well-known names from Redfern? Anthony Mundine. I'm from Brizzy.
Yeah.
Was Spanian from that area, or he grew up somewhere else?
He was around the area. He was younger than me, so I didn't really know him, to be honest with you, at the time, and didn't even know of him until he come home and obviously started doing what he's doing. Congrats to him. I always say to him, mate, anyone that does great, I'm all for him, and if I can support him with no... And I know it's something that, from what I hear, Spaniards, obviously everyone wants to piggyback him into business or life or success or whatever it may be. But for me, even with him, when he was in Dubai, I'd shoot him a message, bro, if you need a car, let me know, I'll send you a supercar. For him, though, the thing is, and this is the, around success, I suppose, is letting go of that control. Sometimes some people want to help you for the best, just out of the best intentions with no expectations. And if you can do that, I think that as men, very important. Help someone out without an intention of, even if it's just to have a conversation for an hour or 2 hours to your mate and not say you owe me anything. I'm just there for you.
Yeah. One thing I admire, like I've never met him, but I know he looks like comes across as an introvert. I know he does the thing, but he's not with a crew. He's always by himself. Yeah. He doesn't need to be with. I think he has his best mate, Colombia, but he doesn't like traveling, flying. But I like that he doesn't. People come forward, sweet, but he just wants to be left alone, type thing. Yeah. So maybe there's that institution. Is that a prison thing? Maybe institutional.
Yeah, I'm like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people same thing, and they're like, "What? No way."
Same.
And I think Spaniards the same. And I understand it because we've been through so much, even for yourself, where whether it's society, whether it's courts, whether it's family, friends, and we're not unique. Everyone's the same, and you're just like, I'm better off in my own company. I'm able to let the guard down in a business transaction or a life transaction where I meet you, let's see where it takes us. Yeah. And at that point in time where they cross a boundary and I've got boundaries, then I'll pull the plug. I have a conversation, and if that's not respected effectively, we're communicating and you don't respect that, well, then I'll just remove myself from that environment. Where some people are just blocked off and they become so independent, and then you're in a bad position where opportunities, like I think for Spanian as the example, if he opened himself up more, he'd get so much more. Yeah, okay. And obviously he had that manager who was doing really well for him. Things hit the fan and no doubt shut him off even more because I opened myself up. Now you've shut me down, which he spoke out about a topic which was, so the reality was it was the truth of the matter. And people were like, don't say that.
Don't like the truth.
And people don't like. Yeah. Isn't it crazy that you can't tell the truth these days or you get shut down? Yeah. And I'm like, when did that become? And this is where it sort of translates into this.
I'm waiting for someone to try and shut me down because I'm talking against the system. So
absolutely,
I'm here. If you want to come get me, I'm here. So, mate. So where does crime start coming into play?
12 years age, dad's physically abusive to the point where I'm scared of going home, and I just had enough one day and hung jump out the window and went onto the streets, and we went out and about, and I sort of bounced between lounges at the start, and felt bad going to people's houses and said I was just sleeping over for a night, so I wasn't going to cut it, and we ended up finding a cafe in town, snuck under a couple of packets of chips with the brothers sitting there chewing away, and one day the back door of the canteen's open, we walk in, there's a bundle of money, and the rest was history. If there's money here, there must be money elsewhere, and it's going to get us a roof over our head and a nice warm bed. Let's roll.
Roll on from here.
And that was it.
Mate, robbing banks, what age did that start coming in?
Probably I'd say I was in my 20s. Yep. And it just, same thing. You just transition.
You just sort of,
And it's crazy that you just don't, like, we were snatching money off bank counters at the time, so someone depositing money. I look back on that now, and I'm a business owner, so that might have been their last thing. They might not even had the money, and that was going to put them somewhat near coming out of the red, and, you snatch it off them, and they don't get the insurance on it or something of that nature. And I look back on stuff like that, and it's just, it is what it is. I mean, I was just built wrong or uneducated, so that was what I thought was normal until I realised it wasn't. So probably in my 20s, I was arrested at, I believe I was 27, arrested for the first bank robbery, and served 5 years for that.
Oh, so you'd been started at 20, so you'd robbed banks for 7 years without getting caught? Or what? On and off, I guess, robbing a bank?
That was my first one I ever got charged for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
In 2000 and something.
Yeah, that's all good.
And it's crazy I say 2000 something because none of the dates had relevance to me. You might have flown into Afghanistan on this date. For us, we're in and out so much. Dates, I couldn't even remember my kids' birthdays. Yeah. That's how bad life was. It was just dysfunctional.
Every day was like the same day.
You just go out and make money, and everyone's, how good's Morgs? And you're like, I'm in Hollywood. Everyone loves me. And that's the level of operation. It's just low level and just crazy.
Did you find, I assume there would have been an adrenaline rush with robbing a bank, at least the first time?
Like, you got to, if I'm going to be real about it, absolutely. Yeah. It's akin to surprise. You go in, and we didn't do any low-level things. We treated it like a military operation. And the police, and I mean that nicely, they had a respect for us. We got arrested in Melbourne. Most of the times they beat the shit out of armed robbers. For us, they didn't touch us, and I think that was a sign of, you're good operators. Mate, during the robbery, I was sledgehammering the safe open, and kid was crying. I ran out. I turned to my cold cues, hold this, and then you can imagine the sledgehammer hitting steel, and steel, bang! It actually sounded like a gunshot. So, kid's crying. I'll run out. Who's got the kid? I take the kid out of the bank and ran back in. The judge actually acknowledged that we had some form of compassion. Who does that during a robbery? And I did that, but my cold cues actually got credit for it. He had a whole heap of charges, so probably worked out good for him. But it's just crazy stuff.
So could you get into a safe with a sledgehammer back then?
Well, the safe's like, you got to imagine it's probably this thick, and that's open. So people don't know, like back then, they'd shut the door, but it would always be unlocked. So you pull that open, and inside that was just a
like a steel rod. No.
Inside that it's steel rod. If that was locked,
you can't get in.
There's no way. It was too thick. But once you're inside, it's just like, letterboxy, but hard and steel.
Yeah.
One hit in the right spot, and
cool.
Bob's your uncle opens up where all the cash was, and they had 4 levels of that, and just, as I said, kinder surprise every time you hit it, and you just got to hit and hope.
Did you find? Did you get addicted to the adrenaline?
I think it was more. I think we realised police were chasing us. They were pulling us over. They were saying, "I know you done this. I know you done that." And you'd say, "Well, you got to prove it." At that point in time, I'm heavily involved in crime. It's like F the police, and I'm not talking to you, and all of the above. So, like, you can say what you want, but in the end, and I say this with context to where I was then, not now, but your guards up, and you're like, well, prove it. You do your best to prove it. And you can say what you want or think what you want, but you got to prove that. And in the end, for us, that adrenaline of going out, hitting those things, opening up, and you don't know what you're going to get. Some days, when we were arrested in Melbourne, it was 250K, but some days it might be over $1 million. So it just depends on.
And what year were we talking then? Say,
I got arrested. The first one, I believe it was 2016. I believe 2016 or 2017. Yeah. And then came home 2002, I believe, and then was out 6 months. Got arrested in Melbourne in 2003. Yep. And then served another 7 years for that bank robbery, and that changed my life. That's where I changed it.
Is it true what they say? If you rob a news agency with a knife for $50, and you rob a bank with a knife for
50
grand. It's the same time.
Pretty much.
Because it's armed. Is that right?
Yeah,
Is that
it's armed robbery. So in the end, and sort of every circumstance will change the sentence, how you threaten them. So for us, I felt we got a pretty good sentence considering what we did. The planning that went into it. Police watched us. They knew we came down and they'd watched us leading up to us. They watched us rob the bank. They let us rob the bank. We got away with the money. We could, if we drove off to Sydney, we would have actually got away with the money. Literally, but we went in town and just sort of went to kick back and kill some time.
Hang low.
And then, just mingle in, and next thing I'm on the ground with a gun to the back of the head. And best day of my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life forever, man. Right there, right then. Enough was enough, and just started to shift and change.
Mate, what was prison life like? Because the reason I asked that, I can imagine you just staring at the ceiling all the time. What else are you going to do, think about? Is that where the mindset started to change? Like,
not many people get a chance to sit with themselves and have that time. Now people say journal, you should journal. Imagine being able to journal all night, sit there and journal. And in the end, I started to look at how I was built, and I was like, you're full of shit, man. You're full of shit to yourself. Like, I really told myself a lot of bullshit. And until I started to shift, and even to this day, I'm still looking at things going, you're still full of shit, mate. You're doing X when you said you're doing Y. So that time to sit down, look at what I wrote out and say, shit, is that how you're built? That's why you feel like that? Or now I could go back, where did that stem from? And I was able to start to see different patterns, different behaviours. And then I started to see with everyone within that small, as you can, even being at war, you'd see and know who would have your back, who would be first up front, or those sorts of things. In that prison yard, I just got to see human behaviour at its highest level. And you got to understand, make one wrong decision, you're dead. And it's very similar to war, man. Like, people got done over a carton of milk, or putting your laundry bag one spot ahead of the next person. Yeah. So, it's constant hypervigilance. It's looking left, right and centre, knowing who's where and what, hearing a door, or even feeling a breeze of a door. It's crazy. It's
interesting that you mentioned that, because I speak to this, and you might be able to elaborate on it. Like in Afghanistan, you're on alert 24/7. I forget how they word it. It's like you burn out your receptors or something. I might be wording this wrong, but imagine, you might be going on patrol and you might be on alert for just those 8 hours you're on patrol. But however, depending if you're on OP, long story short, we mentored Afghan National Army, but some of them were rogue. So if you went to the toilet, we had this SOP where you had to go in two. So while you're hanging a piss, you literally had your mate watching your back with you open up. So you're on alert 24/7, but that takes a toll. Crazy. Yeah, it's and I forget how they word it. I'm probably going to get this wrong. It burns out your receptors or something, but
definitely adrenal fatigue.
Adrenal fatigue. That's it. Adrenal fatigue.
Because you're just constant. It's like, imagine jumping in your car and accelerating everywhere you went, like constantly, and you come to the corner and you're like, brake, and you're like, there's no brake. I just got to go. Turn, and you end up eventually sliding out and crashing because you just can't. Your body can't handle it at that pace all the time. And imagine, you've been there. I've been 20 years in custody. To come out of it, and like, that's why I have respect for someone like Spanion, or anyone that comes out of jail and does well, because we were constantly on alert. And even now, I'll sit down and I'll put myself, I'm facing everybody. So something jumps off, like Bondi, I'm up and at him. I'm on an aeroplane. I'm in a spot, and I'm thinking about, it's pretty crazy, but I'm thinking about snapping off, standing on the seat, snapping off the tray that comes out and using that as a tool or something. If anyone ever tried to take the plane, and I'm like, who thinks like that? It's
playing worst case scenario.
Hard car.
So let me know what your thoughts are on this are, because I've mentioned in a previous podcast. I haven't been to prison, but you have, so perfect guest. I talk about, so I've come from the army. You get out, and naturally I'm regimented because it's just the environment I've come from. I like to be on time. I like to be in routine. Someone in prison might always sit with their back against the wall. They might read books all day. So when they come out, they tend to read books. So when they come out, institutionalized, is that the word?
Yep, so absolutely.
But that's just the environment that they've come from. And I was trying to refer, when I was talking about my ex, she was a strip dancer, and we're talking about, I was talking to a psych about how, their body length, the environment they've come from, they take it outside of the strip club. So when they come in, they're reading the room. Does this guy have a nice watch? Does he have greenbacks?
100%.
Louis Vuitton wallet. So when they leave the strip club, they're still in that mentality going, what car does he drive? What's this or that? So
absolutely.
Yeah.
And for me, that pattern about it's crazy that you say that. People are like, I've never been locked up or to war, so this isn't relevant to me. Let me tell you, most people are institutionalized but free.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
They're prisoners behind their own eyes.
Yeah.
And once they understand this conversation, you're institutionalized in a belief that you've put into your default settings. That's how you roll out every single day.
Putting barriers or
absolutely
restrictions,
barriers, fears, anxiety, boundaries, and everyone operates from a particular level. And once you're there, if you try and shift and change that person, there's a word dissonance that will then come up and block that potential. And you're not telling me what to do. I know what I'm doing. I was taught by my father, and there's other forms of dissonance. But effort justification, another one that's too hard. It's not really worth the effort because they can't see, look, I need $1 million in my account today, or the perfect body after one workout. People just can't sort of get past that, and they become institutionalized in their own way around how they operate. I'm going to go to work, get up, go to work. Life's good though. I've got a roof over my head. Yeah. But then they'll say, "Oh, I wish I had."
They're comfortable, right? They
hundreds. And then they say, "I wish I was. I wish I had your life, Morgs." I'm like, "Why can't you?" Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, well, I don't have that money." I said, "So, do you believe that you can make that money?" And it's just a belief system that you operate from. And the same principle. Once if you went to war without any training, imagine what I'll shoot everyone up.
Yeah.
But once you actually go to war, or you're taught about war, what ends up happening? You end up talking from a space and place where you know how to operate. Hey, eyes down or whatever it is. I've got no idea about war.
I understand what you're saying.
So people just operate from this low level of life, and they say that this is what life is. It's chaos.
Yeah.
I was in peak hour traffic as an example the other day, and I don't put myself in peak hour traffic, but I had to a bunch of workshops, and I finished in Sydney, and I got out of Sydney at 5 p.m. and I drove an hour and got nowhere, and I went, I'm pulling over, and got a feed, and then waited and drove in the darkness down 4 hours. But to me, people accept that and call that normal, but that's chaos.
Yeah.
And once you understand that, that's the institutionalization that you've actually accepted, and more than likely you're going to regret by the end of your life.
And I guess that's trying to find the positive and the negative. I guess, all right, I'm stuck in traffic. How can I better this? Well, I can pull over and have a feed. In the meantime, I'm going to eat, do something else while that traffic dies down. I can get back on the road.
Absolutely. Even build a business. People talk about, I don't have time, I've got to travel in traffic. By the time you get home, if you hold up in traffic and you did an hour waiting, and then you got home like half an hour quicker maybe, and you did hour work on your business idea that you got. And in this day and age, you've got so much opportunity to do so with something like ChatGPT or something of that nature. My advice is go out and seek the life you want and be relentless around it.
Mate, I will put the bank robbing topic to bed, but I've got to ask one more. So today, there's no way you could rob a bank today, right, with technology?
Nah. Like I look at it now, and I mean that nicely. I'm not definitely promoting crime, but just the amount of cameras that are out these days. And so many people got ring light cameras. You see them on all these crimes that are being committed across the country, and police always go and canvass the area. They go and get your camera and off you go. Like people are getting arrested for these, especially like a lot of stuff, big stuff that's happening in Sydney at the moment, or had been, and everyone end up getting arrested because there's just camera after camera, phone towers,
pinging, and
then even my old cold queues got rearrested again because they kept going, and I'm pretty sure they had bugs on them or little cameras in the cars, and they can the size of the camera these days. So it was one of the reasons I started to shift out as well. I think it was a sum of all things, but I just realised technology was catching up, and it's not worth it, man. And they don't have money. A lot of people tap these days, and I wouldn't even know if they got the vaults out the back anymore. Inside the vault, and whether you hit that, and it'd be all coins or nothing in there really.
Yeah, because me and my mate that I just told you about before that passed away, rest his soul, we used to watch Den of Thieves and
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh man, you reckon we could do it? Like, there's no way. Like today's day and age, like there's no
I want
way.
to ask, or you're like, not in a bad way, but how many people thought about it at some point in time, some form of robbery, watching a movie, going, oh, I reckon I could do that.
I think because we're trained in weapons, like we can den of thieves, right? The storylines of the ex-army. Then I'm like, man, like the weapon drills that be down pat, but it's doing the recce on the bank. Because I don't know much about bank, but I think back in the day, great, but today, like, there's no way. Like
you look at I think in America there was a crew that went around and they were ex-soldiers, and they ended up sort of having a big shootout in the end.
So maybe that's what Den of Thieves maybe got based on. I'm not sure. But there's actually a story, and it's a story, so you would know if this is true or not. There was a story that some ex-soldiers robbed a bank in the outskirts of Sydney somewhere back in the day. Don't know when.
Yeah.
And this is just a street story, so it's probably made up. But they robbed the bank, but they used field signals, so they used hand signal signs. And apparently the bank was so shocked because they came in, they didn't say a word, they got the money bugged out. It might have been on the 4 hours on the outskirts of Sydney somewhere. And apparently the way they got caught was the copper was ex-army, he was an ex-grunt, and he worked out the field signals that they were giving to each other, and he worked out they're ex-army. Now look, I'm sure if anyone knows, you would have known, but this is a street story I got told. Like, oh, how come I haven't heard it? But you know what, people, I heard this, but have you heard any story like that?
No.
Yeah, it's probably made up. Yeah.
It's but it'd be interesting, and I think I definitely think soldiers would do something of that nature. Where, see, for us, we had our own little signals. Everything was There was always something.
Yep.
And we operated at a high level, and if it was time to go, didn't matter how much was left looking you in the eye. Just had to go and drop everything, and same thing at war. We've got to keep moving, and things are happening.
Mate, before we rewind and ask when you met your ex and had your kids, real quick, because I've asked. So my dad's a correctional officer.
Wow.
30 years still going.
Here, Brisbane or?
Brisbane, yeah.
Wow.
His brother,
yeah,
Louis, my uncle Louis, he actually was in Bogger Road jail with Nathan Jones. Remember the big Nathan? Yeah. So it's funny.
Dad's a tank. I don't know what happened.
We went to the Anthony Mundine and Danny Green fight in 2006.
In Brisbane?
No, Sydney.
Oh, yeah.
It was Mundine and Danny Green. We flew out. I remember seeing him on the plane, and I've never seen someone. There used to be a Red Rooster at Brisbane Airport, and he bought 2 full chickens.
Wow.
And I remember looking and going, who the fuck is that? And Dad said, that's Nathan Jones. And Dad was with his 2 screwmates too. And I was like, who's that? He's like, he was in Bogger with things. So when I got landed in Sydney, I actually tapped him on the shoulder like this. And I said, and he just looked at me. I said, because I used to live in Raunchy Street, which was right next to Bogger Road Jail. So I grew up next to Bogger Road, And I said, mate, I used to live in Raunchy Street. And he laughed. He goes, Bogger Road. I said, you might know my uncle, Louis. He goes, Louis Purcell. He goes, I said, yeah. I said, how is he? He goes, he actually got deported back to New Zealand. And then he crashed a car, had a carton on his lap, and the carton hit the steering wheel and crushed his ribs.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've asked my dad, 30-year correctional officer, I've asked ex-cops that I've worked with on previous things, I said, do you believe that there's innocent people in prison? I think they said, yep. So that's from ex-cops, correctional officers. You've been inside. Do you believe that there's innocent people in prison?
There's I'd say there is some. I'd say there's times where you get loaded up with a whole bunch of charges. They're trying to take them off their books. And I swear, back then, they're like, if you plead guilty, we'll give you 12 months to these. And some of them, you're just like, yeah, whatever, bro. Just put them there. You don't even care. And people would say, bullshit, you wouldn't do that. We do. People just go, couldn't be bothered with all the drama fighting out. Yeah. I'm going to get 12 months.
Money in court, all that, just do 12 months.
And it was like, when you get to a different level of life, once I started to really, do some stuff at a high level, there's no way I was going to take those load ups. But a lot of kids will just take, 40 break and enters and they just, whatever, plead guilty to them. And it's just, there's no evidence on them. It's just wiping their books. But then you get people that are, I think whether they're unconscious bias, they go to a person and the person's, especially in a murder or something of that nature, and that person was the last person to see him, and the cops gun ho and going down that path. And we've seen that happen many a time where they believe it's that person and they end up finding out through DNA it was someone totally different. So I think there's been people in there that I sit there and go, they're this person. There's a lot of people that convince themselves that they didn't do anything, and because you read their brief, they go, "Morgs, read this," and I'm like, "All right, you're cooked." And then he's like, "Yeah, but with this," and I'm like, "No, you're cooked." You're cooked.
Because I didn't realise in the DV space how easy it is to get locked up. You send a message.
When you talk about that,
holy fuck!
It's you can say anything, and look, I've been through it, and I've been in that situation where someone said something because they were cheating, and mate, I sat there, and the coppers come out and said, "Mate, jump out of the car." And I was like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And he's like, "Mate, you're under arrest for assault." And I'm like, "Assault for what?" And he goes, "Your partner at the time." I said, "Mate, show me her face or her body or any scar," and there was not one. Right.
Yep.
Long story short, dragged through the court system for that. She cheated. I caught her out. She wanted to go to her parents to, can we go to our parents and talk about this? No problems. We're driving off, pulls up at the police station, runs in the police station, and what are you doing? She goes, I'm scared. I'm like, all right, of what? What have I driving to your parents? Long story short, and I tell that story because I know who I am, man, and I know what happened. And mate, I helped that girl get a job in the gym. I'd done the right thing and turned around and just killed me pretty much for a long period. That drilled me, and I was in, mate. I literally had to go to court for that, and on that subject, get to Newdown Police. He's like, "What are you doing here, Morgs?" The sergeant. I haven't seen you for a long time. I was like, "Mate, this is what happened." He's like, "Mate, you've never been like that."
Yeah.
I can't. He goes, "I can't even give you bail. You got to appear before the judge." So I go up before the judge. The judge is burning me. "Oh, you can't do this, mate. Who do you think you are?" And I'm like, "I didn't do anything. It's just based on this one person's word. There's not a photo." I said, "Can you show me the photos of any damage or hurt or cuts or bruises or blood or anything?" There's not one thing. Long story short, she goes home to her mother, tells her mother, and her mother's like, "Are you joking?" "Oh, I was scared. I thought because of his past he might do something, and I ran into the police station." They come back, make a statement. So I didn't have any. I couldn't even contact anybody, and it was only last moment that sergeant ran the thing up to court while he's burning me, the judge, and then says, "I got a statement here from the mother that was told the true story, and I got bail on that day. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have got bail, and I went to jail, and I would have been innocent at that point in time." And mind you, I think it took me like 2 years to get into court. They were dragging it out, saying if you plead guilty to a lesser charge, I'm like, I didn't do anything to plead to. Why would I plead to a lesser charge for something I haven't done? Anyway, I was driving down King Street to go to court for the trial, and the solicitor rings and says, "Where are you?" "I'm on King Street. I'm nearly there." And she's like, "Turn around and go home."
They were drawing it?
Yeah, but she never got charged.
Yeah, perjury.
No.
No.
How is it? And we're talking about it before. It has to go both ways.
That's right.
Right? All right, you get the protection as I'm the perpetrator and you're the victim. Fair enough. All right, you want to get that protection. But what happens when nothing happens, when it's clear that there was lies? The mum even had the statement there. They had that for a long period of time. You know how much stress that caused me in my life?
Yeah.
And I felt like, I knew who I was, so I was strong. And I've been through a lot. But I'm like, it's just like someone muds your name, and I'm like,
people class you as woman basher.
And what happened? If something comes up for me, while working with children's, mate, what happened in this? I go, there's nothing happened. It was dismissed. Yeah. And they're like, "Yeah, but tell us what happened." I said, nothing happened. That's it.
Same.
It's dismissed, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, but the facts say," and I said, "Mate, the facts were what the police wrote when they first arrested me. I'm not going to go through it. There's nothing to discuss, and I just don't want to. And it's not because there's nothing to discuss. What do you want me to discuss?" And I think that's, that puts a lot of stress on men.
It does.
For man, there was times I'd be driving and I'd pull up at lights, and a lot of people don't know this from that situation. I'd sit there and tears would roll down my eyes. This is bullshit. Because of my past criminal history, I was blasted he's violent. He's an armed robber for sure. This is what's happened. And Mate, I had the police officer inappropriately ring me up personally and say, if you plead guilty to these charges, like lesser charges, we'll sort it out today. And I was like, no.
No way.
Firstly, you shouldn't be ringing me personally. And secondly, I should report you. You're lucky that I got the old school mentality.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you in court that I didn't. I did nothing, and I don't know why you're still pursuing it. The craziest thing was the male police officer, when I went to court one time, he said, mate, I would have dropped the charges on you already. There's nothing. And he goes, it was a female domestic violence officer. And it's good. Like, be committed to people that are actually doing it. And I understand, let's protect the female. But for people, there was nothing there, man. And it was a mad witch hunt. And, it was just terrible. It hurts, man. And I was a strong man. If I wasn't, and let me tell you, like, a lot of times I felt like shit, and I just was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't be here. And you have those little thoughts, and at the time, go down that path of I'm going to deal with things and have a drink and deal, and then you're even in a worse spot, and you're starting to have these little moments that you just didn't have. Shouldn't be having those moments from those situations.
The whole DV topic needs to be addressed because it's happened to me, and I've said it before many times. In the past, when someone said, there's DV on that guy, I'll be the first one to put my hand up and go, woman basher. Now that it's happened to me, I'm thinking, there's two sides of the story here, And it's just crazy that someone can go in cop shops, say XYZ, no evidence, and it's just on hearsay, and then boom, your life gets turned upside down. They come to your house, get your weapon licenses, take this off you, lose your career, and
it's crazy.
And then I'm left 18 months, 2 years later to go to trial to spend 50, 60 grand.
That's
to
what
prove
I did. Same thing.
And then it's go, you're free to go. Hold on. Well, what about all the stress? My name, my weapons, I lost my career. Do I get any of that back? No.
Crazy,
sorry, Mr. Purcell, but you're good to go now.
That's crazy. Like that phone call, when I got it, I remember getting the phone call and I remember crying my eyes out, going, this was bullshit. Like, all right, so now, does she get charged for lying?
Perjury?
There's not one shred of evidence. What happens to all the money I spend on the lawyers? Do I get that back? And if I do and I want to pursue it, it's years on years, and they make it so tough on you.
You got to pay them for those years trying to get it back.
It's just and then what they don't see is the mental impact that has on people, right? And I've never really spoken about this on podcasts, but it took its toll on me, man. I felt like shit, and then it rolls into the rest of yourself and your life, and and I'm not saying that I justify behaviours from them, but then I'm trying to navigate because I didn't have the emotional intelligence back then to deal with it properly. Let's go and do substance abuse. Let's go and have some alcohol. Let's go and sleep around with women and feel good about myself.
Band-Aids,
And it's just all, escapism, Band-Aids that I'm trying, and it just makes the whole situation worse. And I just realised at some point in time, that's what woke me up. I can't keep doing this life. I'm going to end up dead, man. And that's it's a sad truth. Like the amount of times I walked late at night, and and when I say late, I'm talking 3 o'clock in the morning, just walking, looking at the stars, and just wondering like, who would miss me if I went? What is And I think it was the biggest thing that kept me was my kids, always like in the background, and that's kept me still here today.
Mate, now that we mentioned kids, we'll rewind the clock. Mate, your first kid, you met your ex. Can you remember the year, the time frame?
Probably 1995-ish, I'd say.
How old were you then?
I think maybe I'm wrong, but I would have been 95, 22.
Yep.
And life was good. I'm making a lot of money. I'm in the world. I stayed out for about 7 years and out clubbing. DCM's very well-known dance club in Sydney. Going there every weekend to manage my emotions and dance the night away, and met down there and through a friend who was dating the sister and said, this girl I'm dating, she reckons she knows you and her sister's on for you, and the rest was history. Yeah.
So your first child's son, boy, girl?
First child, so actually I lied. The first child was girl I met just out at a presentation one night, get a hotel room. I get locked up. Her brother's locked up in Long Bay with me. And I get called out to the visit. And I'm like, no one's ever visited me. Who the F is this? I walk out and he's walking out with me. And he goes, who's visiting you? I said, I don't know.
No way. I see where this is going.
Oh, yeah, I get out there and I'm like, oh, that's that girl from that night. Oh, my God. I'm going to avoid her. And then the mum goes to him and she comes to me and I'm like, oh, my God. And he goes, how do you know Jeff? And then he goes, you know my sister? And I was like, oh. Anyway, long story short, we start catching up and the rest was history. Come home and end up with the first child there. Second child, different mother. I'm still dysfunctional. But here I am telling myself that this chaos was so normal and I'm a good person, and it's just crazy.
So your first one was your boy? Your first child?
First one was girl.
Girl, daughter?
Yeah,
yep.
Brianna.
Your second child is your son?
Brandon, yeah.
Brandon, yep.
Yeah.
And
different mother.
Different mother?
Yeah.
What's the age difference between them?
So 2 years.
2 years?
2 years.
And then you've got a third?
Yeah.
Yep. What?
Which was when I come home, same thing. I changed a lot of my life, but I still had bad dysfunctional behaviours here and there.
Yeah.
And I was still trying to navigate myself. Like, to be honest, I was a lot of self-development. And then I look at things and say, what do you need to still go on a bend on? Long weekends. And it's just recreational. And I just justified.
Sorry, Paul. I know what you mean. Like, you're getting your life together, but every now and then, if you're having a bad day, you might revert to an old bad habit.
Yeah,
you might have a good 2-3 months, and I've had a shit day, and you sort of revert to a bad habit.
Couldn't wait for the long weekend and catch up with a mate. It'd just be me and him, and we'd talk BS to each other, to be honest. And you look at that, even that, you just think back. I wish I'd spent that with time and money with my kids. Like, it's just you just built how you're built, and you think it's normal. And that so many males and females are going through that whole situation, dysfunctional situation.
Yeah. And your third child, was the age difference? Sorry.
She's 8 now at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, and
so how old are all your kids now? Sorry.
So 8, 30, and 28.
20, yep.
Yeah.
And are you still on good terms with your exes or the baby mothers?
I'd say like I'm on. How would I put this? Probably. I'm on good terms with the young one.
Yep.
She's great. We just have great conversations about how we can be the best role model for our kid, and I'd love to have that with the
first
previous two. It's probably not as at that level, to be honest. So big shout out to her. She's done. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing I spoke about before. It's how do we role model the person in between? Because if we go at each other, you're no good, and we're not in this. The kid's going to be the same, right? Yeah. And it's going to roll into their relationships. And if they don't have boundaries or beliefs or values, then they're just going to let somebody walk all over them, male or female. A big shout out to the mother of the 8-year-old, because she's done well. She's like, we've had very respectful conversations, and you might, say I cheated on you and you're my partner. You might hate the fact that they cheated on you, but you know what? The kid's in between, and when you get together, just zip it. If you want to have a conversation, have it offline somewhere, have it when the kid's not present, and be able to communicate really well with one another. And to do that, you got to go away and work on yourself. What is effective communication? What are your values, morals, beliefs? What boundaries should you set, et cetera, et cetera? What are your non-negotiables in these conversations? And being disrespected, raising your voice. Hey, I'm going to cut the conversation. Let's have a talk later, and I'm going to walk off, or whatever it may be. And I think that's, I give her a big 10 out of 10 for being that respectful mother and really trying to set a great example.
No, that's good. Did your first two kids miss out on a lot of years with you because you're away?
15 years. Yeah. And like the strained relationship with my son and the mother to the child, I do try and call and just check on him and see how he's travelling, and even she won't sort of really take calls unless I'm out there. And same thing. I'd like to be a great role model, because what you choose to do is going to roll off into our son, and in the end, that projection will be passed on, and that impacts the relationship you have with your child. It's always killed me, that, man. My son was everything, and all my kids are everything. Yeah. Man.
I was going to say, how was your mindset in prison, knowing that? I assume you will be thinking about your kids, every night going to bed. Was that hard?
It's crazy, eh?
Yeah, I could
but
imagine.
then you walk out of your cell and you're like, I can't wait for
put
the
on a
next bank
different-
robbery.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm staunch. I'm from Redfern. And I always say this: criminal world, be staunch. Don't dob your mates in, but you're not staunch to your own kids.
It's crazy you say that.
Crazy.
I remember I was talking to the boys about it. I remember when I went to Afghan and deployments, and we'd be at the airport, and I was a 21 young single kid, and you'd see all the married guys saying goodbye to their families, their kids, and all those young kids were like, look at these guys crying like pussies. You know? Now that I have a child, I don't even think I would have deployed.
It's crazy.
So yeah, like to all those, all the other brothers and diggers that were deploying with their families,
Insane,
and I was young going pussies, but now I'm thinking, fuck, I don't even know if I could have fucking gone overseas, and not none of us going to come back to my daughter, like it's just
there's lots that didn't come back, eh?
yeah,
It's you don't know when you go over there. So those that have got kids and go, like, what a mindset! Just to even challenge to get past that, like you said, it's to me. It's pretty crazy because I probably didn't sit and say, all right, so if you do this, you're going to get locked up and be away from your kids. It was such
you
autonomy
didn't assess the
in
consequence, like you didn't.
I don't know what it was. I don't just never like this is how I'm built. That was my acceptance, I suppose. I didn't have the willingness to want to look within myself because every time I did, I felt ugly. Does that make sense? Like I'm like, you're a shit cunt. Excuse the language.
No,
it's just straight out, you shit. Like, and people would say, Jeff Morgan, like Spaniards said, hood superstar, right? So everyone's like, in your eyes, you're a hood superstar, and you don't hear it, but you feel it, right? But at the same time, what I was feeling was totally opposite to what they were saying. So I was feeling like shit. I felt weak, like not being any form of a father to your kids. I fathered kids, but I was no father.
Yeah.
And it was real sad, man. And my kids don't know this, but there wasn't a night I didn't cry. And a lot of blokes I was locked up with.
I believe you. Oh, yeah, I know.
I'd go and lay my head down on the pillow, and there was times I'd contemplate different things and how I'd, do something in a cell because they make it very... I suppose take your life proof, if that's the word, and I'm like, just run out the door and what if it doesn't happen and now you're in a wheelchair? So there was a lot of contemplation. That's how deep that kid conversation is, man.
Yeah, I know what it's like. Well, not to be in prison, but there's my daughter's gone now. She's in England, but I might be at the gym and a certain song comes on and runs, and I just tear up. Like I just don't let anyone see, but you can't control the emotions, so. It's hard, but this is why I need to find that purpose to keep moving forward, which is
just on that. Between us and for everybody else out there. If your mate says something like this, and you've got my number, call me anytime.
Yeah, brother. Appreciate
anytime,
that.
and that's for anybody out there. Like, obviously, we've got businesses and lives. Some people have unreal expectations and expect me to ring 300 people a day. I just can't do that.
Yeah.
But if I can take a call, I will take that call or text. I'll do my best to get back to everybody, especially in a situation like that. I scroll my messages and just say, put a title on it about what it's about. And if you're going through a hard time and you just need 5 minutes or a text even to say, hey, mate, I got you, and we can exchange texts and keep you on this planet, reach out.
I might pick your brain real quick because obviously you'd have a lot of people reaching out to you. With me, I have a lot of fathers reaching out wanting to come on, but I have a lot of fathers that are just they're sending me their court orders and documents and news links, and I have OCD, but I have this I don't know what you call like I can't have notifications on my phone. I have to view them. I got to clear them. Like my partner now, she has like 1,000 email notifications like that, and I can't go if I put my phone down. I can't go to sleep. So at night time I have to put on airplane mode so my mind can switch off because if there's I have to. So, and I feel obliged. I'm trying to help like that. I have to respond to everyone, and eventually I do. But there's some days I'm just so taxed on energy, and I have to just let them know respectfully. Like, listen, bro. Like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a counselor. I'm not a police officer. I can see you getting fucked over. I mean, there's not much. I've got a platform to tell you a story, but like, I'm not too sure what else more I can do. But I don't know how to manage those messages because, you know, I don't want to not reply to someone and that dude's taking his life, you know, so
even
it's
if you've got
hard
something auto on yours and use something like ManyChat, and on ManyChat you can set up a sequence. So what's this in relation to? And if it's like
priority,
priority.
Yeah.
I need to talk, or a court thing that would help someone, or I've got a person that could help all fathers, or I have different, and they can click on it, and you can say, "Oh, priority. All right, let's have a look at who's there."
Yeah.
And the rest. That way, you sort of systemize it. Otherwise, you're trying to screen everybody, and it's
you can't.
I'm like
person.
you, like, you know, I get messages about
anything.
So could be high performancing an athlete, right? One moment through to the next person about to take their life, and a lot of people got to understand. Like, I've got a business, I've got, you know, my world going on as well, and I don't mean that disrespectfully to those that message me, but I do get in and try and do it as much as I can, but. There's only certain amount of hours in a day, and I'm like you. I'll turn airplane mode on so I get some good rest, and I come back and give myself 100% of what I'm actually putting myself into.
Yeah, I do love it. I love it's very rewarding. Like, I used to print out all the messages of sport. Just thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for giving us a voice. And I was printing out the messages, but I got four folders of it. I said it's not going to stop. Like I still acknowledge them all. And, you know, it's my dad's, like, obviously in the prisons, I think you have like paramedics will go in, or other the escorts that do it, you know.
Yeah.
And obviously my dad's on my, they'll see him in my stories, and people have come up to my dad like, "Oh, you Jared Purcell's father?" And my dad's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've seen you on the podcast, like, you know, story." And it's crazy, like the father, thank you, tell him to say thank you, and it's crazy, like, you know, like, it's weird. Like, I was at the airport the other day. And Greg Inglis was there, and I had my earphones in. I was sitting next to him. I was kind of sizing up, going, "Oh yeah, still pretty big." And then this lady came up to me. She goes, "Excuse me, can I get a photo with you?" And I thought, "Oh, she thinks I'm." I said, "Oh, sorry, I'm not with the team. I'm not a footy player." And she's like, "No, like, you're from the podcast. Me and my husband watch your show." And I was, it was such good. It was. I don't even know how to. I mean, it was the first time for you. Like, it was kind of like.
It's crazy,
Greg Inglis is next to me.
Yeah.
You want a photo of me? It was weird, bro. I didn't know how to act. I was kind of like, and then I felt like it was like a hidden camera show. I was kind of like, you know, because it was very, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is rewarding, but it is taxing too. Like, because I try and some guys get upset if you don't reply. I'm like, fuck, sorry, bro. Like, I'm trying, like, you know, like.
And I think footnoting to all people that, you know, no doubt you're doing your best. I'm doing my best. Spanion would. Imagine Spanion's inbox, right? And people get at him, "Oh, you don't even answer your messages, bro." Like, I guarantee he's got 1,000 in every day. Yeah. Now, you'd have to employ someone to read them all. Yeah. And even then, you're probably a team of 10.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, you can't save the world, and I mean that nicely. But come in with intent, like put maybe a title to it. Do you know, looking for a lost uncle, or going through a court case, or some contacts for court cases, or whatever it is, relative to the person you're talking to. So for yourselves, fathers need those contacts, or and have that in ManyChat, and then you can put that in there. Frequently asked questions as an example, and they can read through those. So you're not answering everybody the same sort of thing. Otherwise, it's repeat.
Yeah, repetitive.
Yeah. It drains you.
Mate, let's get into the child support world now. You had your first daughter, your child, at, what year was that? Sorry, 95, did you say?
I always get this. This is how bad it is, and how bad it's been.
I'm just trying to compare, because I entered the child support world in 2021.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to compare the comparisons.
95.
Okay, so we're talking about child support back in 95. So your first baby mama?
Yep.
She initiated child support, I guess?
Yeah.
What was the process back then?
I didn't even know. I got locked up. I was going in and out. And, at the time, I think when I went in at that point in time, we'd already broken up, and I'd moved on to the second partner, who was the second child. So I didn't even know. And she initiated child support, and I went to fly out of the country for the Oceania Cup. And as I went to fly out, I get pulled aside. We go through, me and my mate, we're going to New Zealand representing Australia for OzTag. And
did you play OzTag, did you?
Yeah,
oh,
and as we go through, they're like, my thing, I'm saying, excuse me, the thing's
Won't
not
open.
working. And three federal coppers coming against Jeffrey Morgan. I'm like, oh, what's
Here we
this
go.
about? And
bank?
that was the last thing I thought. Child support.
Yeah.
I thought about it.
Yeah, what bank?
And then I walked down and they're like, mate, $11,000 or something like that. I think it's 10,000. At the time, the person who answered that call was pretty cool because they said, oh, look, I can lift it, but it's going to take 24 hours in the system. You're going to have to fly out tomorrow. So I paid that and then sorted that out and moved through that. That was not a problem to navigate. But I didn't know she was claiming child support. In the end, look, I was no father to that child and best wishes to her. I didn't contribute financially and I didn't look after my baby daughter at that time. And, I can't change that, but I can be better now as best I can be.
Was this so? What was you? Were you still tied up in the criminal world at that point?
Yeah.
So how were they assessing your income then?
It was on
base minimum
because they'd done it in custody and it was, I think there's a base minimum. I don't know what it was, and they said you got to pay whatever it was. And then I had the backlog of the amount of time that I did.
Penalty fees and all built up.
And to me, by the time I did come home on that, I was pretty good because I was out for 7 years. So I think I did 12 months. Did 12 months of child support. I don't think it was minimum. I claimed I had nothing. I wasn't working. Wasn't on the dole. And what are you going to claim off nothing? I'm making nothing. And they're like, what are you doing then? And I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
And I was just stuck in the criminal world.
Because I've had a lot of fathers tell me the same thing. They've been stopped at the airport, and I used to work for Australia Border Force, so it got taught to me. I think there is I'll have to look it up. I think there's a limit once you go over. But I know I'm flagged at the moment, so I've got this ongoing legal battle with them. But my child support in the background still ticks up. There's another episode in itself. But that's why people are like, oh, do you want to go overseas? I'm like, no, there's no point because I'm not going to waste money on a holiday and air flights. They're just going to turn me back at the airport.
I'm going to teach you, and everybody that listens to this, like I end up using child_.
Oh, you gave me the Insta.
Yeah, child_support.consultants. Tell me if I got that right. And it was Crystal from that. And I'll give a big shout out because I went through 7 years on the next occasion where same again, I didn't know about it. I'd moved addresses. I was starting to become a bit more functional. To this day, I'm still trying to learn things about being a good father, to be honest with you. Like, I just didn't have it, and I'm trying to look, if this person's a great father, what are they doing, and try and model myself as best and watching podcasts, listening to things. But I didn't, same again, I went to fly out of the country, $22,000 holiday in Bali, and you can understand $22,000 in Bali's,
lavish.
Man, it was lavish. And I was looking forward to this holiday. I rock up and the same thing happens. And I see him walking down. I'm like, oh, no, what now? And then they're like, yo, and for this child. And I say, my children are old. What are you talking about? And they're like, nah, mate, this kid. And I was like, I don't even know who this kid is. Anyway, long story short, I find out it was an occasion I had. And same thing, I get on the phone.
Oh, so you hadn't even known at that time?
No. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't know because the mother said, you're the father. And I was like, mate, it can't be me.
Okay,
You're back with your ex-partner and they had kids and it was all dysfunctional. When I first come home, it was a couple of years in. Long story short, I get there, same principle, mate, you owe some money. It was about 11 grand again. And at that point in time, I ring child support and I said, I'll just pay it now then and I'll sort it out when I get back. And I ring child support and they're absolutely giving it to me. And I'm like, hey, my license is a government thing. You're the government. Like, I've lived in this address for 6 years now. Oh, I'm not dodging anything.
Yeah.
The address you got, that's from like 12 years ago. Why didn't you update your child support? And I was like, because my children are old. I didn't have any reason to update it. Like, I didn't even know this child existed, right? Or that it was technically mine. So I'm fighting this. After that, I ended up fighting a DNA case for a period of time just to get DNA. And it was an absolute nightmare. But It's I have to give the Border Force a rap. I know that you had a bit of a conversation. They actually did really well.
Oh, did they?
Because I put her on speaker and she didn't realise, and she was giving. I said,
Oh, no, they heard.
I'll pay now, and when I get back, we'll sit down and go through it. And nah, you've been dodging us, and my license is here, my phone number's this, it's on my website, it's on my, and I'm trying to be the best functional father. And sure enough, I end up like police, the federal border force or federal
AFP
police,
and ABF
jump on him. They said, do you mind me talking? I go for God. He goes, mate, he's trying to sort it out. And, he's been very respectful. And I've heard you've been on speakerphone and you've been so disrespectful to him. And, mate, he's tried to pay this, that. This, that. And she just kept going. And I was like, you know what? I said, don't stress, mate. It's my drama and I don't want to bring it on yourself. Got the phone back, said, listen up. I'm not going to pay you nothing. I'm going to walk out of this airport. I'm going to hire a car and I'm going to drive all the way to the top of Australia. I'm going to love every moment of it. And now I'm going to take you through the courts. Little did I know that it was going to cost me like 7 years worth of courts. Yeah. But I just, we could have resolved it right there, then. And no doubt they go through a lot of stress, people ringing up, abusing them and whatever else. But you had someone on the line that was actually genuinely trying to...
Here's my card details. Take the payment.
And we were one. Everyone walks away
Going
happy.
Holiday, everyone's happy. Solution, there's a problem, here's a solution.
A big shout out to Crystal from, as I said, child_support.
Yeah, so I've got the
consultants.
Yeah, child_support.consultants. Yep.
Yep, and reach out to Crystal because Crystal had worked in child support for a long period of time. She then created this consultancy. We find her, mate, within a short period of time and for very minimal money, had resolved a lot of things. So even for you to fly, I couldn't fly out of Australia. They put a block on me. And she came in, put all these other blocks back on them, and I was able to fly out of the country straight away, which I did. And I said, you sure about it? I got to the airport, you can imagine scanning my passport thinking, and the second gate opens
anxiety.
And I walk through, I'm like, man, how
freedom.
But it was just like, I think that's, how can we just all get on with each other and make, find a good resolution, get everyone out of the court system, take away the stress from the male and the female, create a better solution for everybody, and we'll stop losing, or let's say it is the women that are stressed, but we'll also have men that aren't stressed and take their lives as well. And, why wouldn't you want to do that?
I can't stress enough how bad child support, and people probably listen to this and go, oh, he's an ex-creamer, he's a soldier, they're probably talking shit. Back when me and my ex split, I actually initiated child support. So I was like, I don't know where my daughter. So I rang up and they're like, oh, Mr. Purcell, that's so very nice of you. And they contacted her and she declined. Now, at the time, I didn't realise later, she was receiving a DV payment. So you're not allowed to receive 2 payments at once. Something. Once that DV payment, because I took a DV trial on one, then she wanted child. So she called child support. Child support calling, Mr. Purcell, you need to start paying child support. I was like, whoa. I was like, hey, like, where's this attitude? I remember I called you. Yeah, that doesn't matter. You need to be paying now. Like, yeah, sure. Like, but why are you talking to me like a piece of shit? Like, and then, like, there's, Bettina Arndt talks about the fathers taking their lives because of child support, and they're just not calculating it correctly. Like, one of the sponsors, MCH Industries, he owns a mining company. I think he pays some of his guys $160,000 a year, they work in the mine. He said some of my guys can't even stay on the feet. They can't even get ahead because they're just like, oh, you're on 160, well, 140 can go to them. It's just, how they calculate is not correct.
I think you got to find a happy medium, as I said, and that requires like a whole collect the data from those that have been through this stress and struggle, because we collect data on everything else around. I do all around mental health or leadership or what, and it's all data collection, and then we'll run the programs and gear the programs towards getting a better outcome, right? And that for us has brought great success. Why wouldn't we do the same in this? Just say what's not working and sending people down a path that actually 46 a week. It's insane. Collect all that data and say, how can we prevent this firstly? Secondly, how can we bring an outcome that is for the best interest of the environment? We say that, imagine a circle. And we're all in that circle, me and my ex-partner, or you and your ex-partner, and our child's in that as well. So what we're teaching people, and I think child support in the court don't realise this, is how segregated and isolated it is.
Yep.
And now, maybe the kid's saying, my dad doesn't love me and doesn't want to see me. And It's the total. You'd be crying at night. I was crying at night, and it's just it's a crazy system. And until we shift and change that system, and to do that, we've got to be able to really tap into how we speak the language of the courts and one another to allow us to get a better outcome a lot quicker for everybody.
Yeah. I'll call the family court big brother and the child support system big sister, but they don't communicate, so... And I've literally tell them, like, every time you give her child support, she's breaching court order. See this court order, she said she doesn't receive child support. Like, we don't care. Like, you don't care that she, take it up with the court. Like, they handball.
And they do handball.
Oh, they handball.
They're like, it's not us. You'd have to speak to the
take
court.
Take it over them.
Then you go to court and they say, because of Section 32, you got to go over here. Yeah. And I'm like, they just said, if I come to you, and then, like, there was times I had someone at the time in my corner who was very diligent. And they did all the things right, female. They were helping me out. I said, mate, I'll get to the end of this. They were very, very high level operation, corporate, high performer. And she turned around after 7 years and said, you're probably just better off paying for the child support. Like, she gave up. They burned her out.
Yeah.
She had nothing. She come in and I was like, you don't have to do this. And she's like, I want to do this. I want to see an outcome for you and your daughter and all, Long story short, she burned out and said, just pay the child support, because in the end, you would have paid less paying the child support than you have court fees. And
you'll weigh it up.
It's crazy because the stress on me, and I'd rather give that money that I gave to a lawyer to my daughter, man.
Exactly.
I don't know, put it away for her first car or uni or whatever it may be. And I think if we, or the courts understand that, there's a better way. And if there's a better way, well, if something's stressing you out, causing you friction, it's slow, but I come in, I say less friction and we'll make it faster, wouldn't you want to do that?
Right.
It's crazy. It blows my mind. And you got to ask, I know that's the protection thing, protect the victim. Until, courts used to be, until proven guilty, then we can't say anything. You can't write something in the paper, right? These days, like, it's just crazy. As soon as you're in a position, you're the judgment's on you, and now you prove to me that you're not that person.
Yeah, guilty.
It's just crazy. I know a lot of great fathers who cried, who were good partners, and had partnered, cheated on them, and then rang me and said, stuff him. He wants to mess me around. He doesn't know he's messing with them. I'm like, what that? And that person ended up taking their life. So may rest easy. And people just don't know the consequences of what they think is great actions. I'm going to mess this person up and get some money. It could cost someone their lives. So
when me and my ex split up, she called my mum, because my mum, she relives it all the time, and she just called my mum and said, I'm going to destroy your son's life, and hung up. And she destroyed my life, her life, my dad's life, my brother's life.
When you've got that intention, I think that's evil, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there, you had that question before, how do you get to a person that is built of this nature? There's a thing called the Socratic method. And the Socratic method is speaking their language, like literally getting you to see it through your lens. Because if I say, stop taking drugs, and you're a drug taker, you're like, you're going to die. You're like, all right, no worries, and keep doing it. But if I can get you to have a light bulb moment by plugging into your psyche and basically speaking your language so that you understand it from you, then I'm able to shift and change. And you've got to almost make a couple of examples or scenarios that allow them to go, oh, I never thought about it like that. Is that why I did that? And I'm like, you tell me. And they're like, it is. I've just had a light bulb moment. And they'll tell you, I've just had a light bulb moment.
Yeah. I suppose some people it could happen naturally, I guess, without, I think Spaniard, I remember watching his story, he said, just said one day I looked at myself in the mirror and I just saw I forget how he worded it, but I just said I saw a fucking piece of shit. Like I just couldn't bear who I saw, and I just changed like that.
I was the same.
Yeah.
And everyone can tell you how great you are, but you know how great you are. And if you weren't great, then I wasn't a great father. And I'm, still trying to be a better father to this day.
Yeah.
And learning every single moment, and I'm open to that. And if if someone's got tips on this, drop it in the comments.
Yeah.
I'll pick them up and I'll read them and go, yep, sweet, I'll implement that, because I just didn't see it. We grew up where fatherhood, like, he's just at the tab, domestic violence with my mother, and what do you reckon I learned? Good stuff, like, just, I looked at it, but I was one of them kids, if someone took drugs and they OD'd, I didn't want to do it. Someone did domestic violence, didn't want to do it. Someone punched on and thought that was normal, didn't want to do it. So I was everything that I saw, I was like, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to do that? It doesn't make sense. And I stepped away from it, where I built myself around crime. So by the time that that was the only thing that I was doing on automation.
All right, man. So you took, you're at the airport, they turn you back, and so you end up taking child support to court, which 7 years. And so let's talk that. Let's break that down for the listeners at home. Like the start, like you rock up, you get a mention date, they come back in 4 months. Let's break it down.
I think like people don't realise. All right, you get to the airport, you owe this much money. All right, how do I sort it out as I wanted to? And then no, you're gonna have to appear here, or you're going to have to do this process. You got to look it up. There's no information, like real clear information for someone to go from A to Z and sort your problem out. Right?
Yeah.
Create a solution. For us and what I do, it's all about solutions. Man, I just seen problem after. It was like find it first, now pay for it. Then when I went there, blew me away. The first court case, they're like, oh, you're not really meant to be here. I'd say you should have went this way. And I've paid the people like money.
What are you telling me now?
And I'm like, why wouldn't you tell me that to my lawyer, solicitor, or whatever? And I was like, what? Like, I don't get it. And then, you want to give them an uppercut to be straight out and honest, because you spend a couple of $1,000s to try and resolve a problem. And then, it went on, and I got kicked to there. Then I got a new lawyer. Then I was just, prison, I did 20 years. I can tell you the 7 years was harder than the 20 years, mentally.
I'm glad you said that.
It was like, I'd rather do 20 years of prison. I told you, this female is highly driven, very successful, good in systems, went through everything, and said, just pay the child support, it's better off. Like, it's just a nightmare. And she goes, you're just up against an absolute money beast from the government. And look, don't get me wrong, there's going to be cases where you got fathers that are like, stuff you, I'm not paying nothing, I understand that. But treat each case on its merit. I think that's the most important. Like, it's like anyone. You meet a new friend. I meet you today. Is this both respectful and, you're talking nice on the phone. Have a good conversation.
Yeah.
And in the end, from that lady, when it did get sorted out, I just went, I'm going to pay you, just to run it out. I'll pay more, but I'm going to just drip feed you, because I was like, stuffy, we could have resolved this a long time ago. That's right. And long story short, and I was advised by someone, just do this. And I have to say, the people that were paying, they were awesome. Like, every time, they're like, Jeff, you went through a lot. They actually spoke to me, and we had conversation. She was a female. And she said, like, they could have resolved it a long time ago. Yeah. And that was someone external of the whole court cases. But the amount of times I went through court, I ended up in the Supreme Court, and he goes, I don't even know why you came today. And I paid like $5,000 for the day. For what?
Yeah,
to get an adjournment.
Yeah, bro, don't get me started. Don't get me started.
Like, I'm in the wrong, man, I shouldn't have been robbing banks.
Yeah,
I should have been a lawyer, man. I know. I was like, and the same thing, I said, why didn't you tell me that we're just going to adjourn? I could have came and tell me, instruct me, and I'll pay you $500 for the instructions or something. I could do that 10 times. But do you have section 30? I don't quote me, because I've got no idea. But section 32 and part 4 of 3B, and I'm signed and ready to go. So I'd get there. You don't have this. You need to get that. And it was just have it in a system where you can just go in. You need to fill out all of this. Once this is done, here's phase 2. Here's phase 3. Not like you'll get a bit. I'm not joking. I'd get a bit, and I'd come back and say, I'd go back to the same judge, and he'd say, mate, you should have filled out a thing. I said, why didn't you tell me at the last thing?
Yeah, that's right.
And he goes, oh, you're being cheeky about it? And I was like, trying to be functional about it.
Trying to communicate to you, get an answer,
And he goes, oh, mate, like, we get characters like you all the time. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue. Like, I just want to sort this out. And if my daughter's my daughter, I'll look after her. And that was the case. Like 7 years later, when we finally got in touch with Crystal, mate, I've been good ever since. I've paid everything that I had to, and I've manned up as best I can in the position and what I've learned over time to be better. And, you can't be a leadership coach and then go out and not be functional yourself around leadership in life. And when I say that, I've still got so much to learn as a father, and same, my vulnerability is strength. I didn't get it as a kid. Doesn't mean that my choice is justified. It just means that I'm willing to learn more. And I think the court system should be willing to learn more and put it into a real functional, fast system that is smoother, and it protects both people in the space, not just one person. It's a very dangerous path when you go down a path and say, we're going to protect this person and not, find otherwise. When I was in Melbourne and locked up, they had a thing, and it was called time delay. I think it's time delay. So you'd get bail. People that had done murders got bail, and I was like, how? Wow, what it was all around the gangland thing at the time. But what was happening, they'd serve 5 years and then they'd get found not guilty, and obviously then sue the court system because they'd spent time in custody for nothing. They were probably part of the criminal world, but...
Not, yeah.
Long story short, so they started to let people go, and I think, that's if they can do it at that level where someone's been charged for that and then they get bail, how can we not do this in this court system around child support, or child's being in the middle of this conversation where we can say, father gets access, mother gets access, here's the non-negotiables, don't return the kid in time, or whatever it is, that you both set out, and here's the standard. You can come back and obviously monitor that, and if someone doesn't keep to that standard, then go back through the court system, make it easier. It's very draining. It was very...
Yeah, I want to break down the year by year. So as every year went on, was there progress anywhere, or was it just a revolving door?
Just
come back in 4 months? Was it like that? Come back adjourned, come back in 4 months?
Paperwork this, paperwork that. And I felt like I was just paperworking everything. And I was like, every time I come back, why didn't you tell me to fill this one out last time? I could have done that. Like, could have done, and then I'd start asking, all right, so is this part 2 of 10 or something? Or is there
part 2
how
of
many
2?
more?
How many more?
And they'd be like, oh, we're not sure. Well, you'll find out. And then you go back and, now fill out section 3B. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll do section 3B. And it's just a whole, and I think it might be to give us men hope around this is what I just took from it. And it's not factual, but I just took like, maybe it's where they drag it out so you feel like you got some form of hope during the time that they might have as a standard. Look, when it's not going to get sorted for a year, I know with a family violence order or something, I think I heard you talking about it or someone else the other day, it's a 2-year period or something of that nature. Don't even quote me on that. And maybe during that 2 years you get some form of hope when you, I'm going to fill this out and maybe see my daughter or son, or I'll do it now and now. But it's a very dangerous game, because it's like you're about to get out from jail and then they say, no, you're not getting out today, mate. And, you do that to a prisoner a couple of times, and more than likely that prisoner's going to respond at the gate, and very violently as well. So, and I'm not saying that it's correct, but it's just a build-up of that volcano where feelings become behaviours. And, that's what we do as a model, to understand our feelings, make sure we're able to harness that and nurture that when it does come up, and then be able to step away from it. But when you got people that are so volatile around not seeing their kids and feeling like shit and feeling all the words, anxious, stressed, depressed, PTSD from it, man. And people go to war and get, obviously PTSD, and they're getting it from just these moments by not seeing their kids. Yeah. It's pretty insane, like when you really think about that in depth.
When you said before you'd rather do 20 years than 7 years, I know exactly how that feels, not in regards to prison, but I've always said I've deployed to 4 countries. I would do 3 years in Afghanistan straight instead of 1 year in that family court.
Crazy. I ask people, you ever had a navigation that spun on you, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if at war, even if
yeah.
they've done it, but I've had it where when I was in Auckland, it was the worst because we won the Oceania. That
one
when I got out,
airport,
we actually won that one. And when after party drinks, after winning drinks with the team, and I'm in the street and the navigation's spinning like this, and I'm like, well, where am I meant to go? It was tripping me out. Like, that's 7 years, that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Like, I swear, I just felt like I was going in circles. Yep. And there was days I'd be like, oh, stuff it, and give up almost. And then I'd get a phone call, oh, look, mate, you're not sorting this out. And I was like, oh, my God. I've filled out part A to B, A, B to C, D, and C3 and C4 and C5 and, you know, all the way to Z. And, like, I'm doing all I can. Why are you getting at me? And I wouldn't say that. I'd just like, all right, so what would be the next best solution in this? How do I get to this end result? And, child support, I just didn't get the support.
No.
Child support, like people, I think it's just the women, and we're going to protect the women. And what about the men that are in that space too? And, yeah, a lot of people don't talk about, they talk about the domestic violence victims in Australia. Domestic violence isn't just physical. The abuse towards a mental or psychological path for male and female, so I'm not just saying male, will lead to someone maybe taking their life. And I look at all those shoes on the front lawn of Canberra, and I think to myself, a lot of those men, I wonder how many were going through child stuff, you know. And
I'd say heaps.
What are the stories behind those boots or shoes? And is that a good outcome for the child in the middle? Like that someone got one way and you were you're the perpetrator, you're going to stay over that side. Treat everyone, I always say, and my grandmother always said, the best race on this planet is the human race, when we all get on with each other. That means male and female as well, races, religions. Your choice, cool, if it impacts somebody else. And I think child support, the court systems have a huge impact on fathers. And we don't talk about domestic violence with men who have been and taken their lives. That is domestic violence. And no one ever gets charged for it. Let that sink in.
I know, personally.
If I just keep prodding you all day and you're going to want to punch me by the end of the day, imagine doing that to the point where someone takes their lives. Who gets charged for that?
Yeah, that's right.
And you could look, we could go back, and I know there's been cases because I've seen that. And I'm not getting at females, I'm talking about male or female, both sides, right? Where they're just prodding or, on the socials, you're nothing but a no good father, this, that, and the other, and the court system's protecting this person. And then the father just has enough, man. And, how can we create a system that is for the best interest and outcome of all those involved?
Yeah.
Not one side being better than the other side or for whatever reason or perception.
My partner, she travels and she sells like solar systems in like Rockhampton, Toowoomba, like rural areas type things. And so she has about 3 appointments a day. And she says like she'll call me every night. We'll talk. Literally most days it's either 3 out of 3 or 2 out of 3. It's like a family court situation. Can't see the kids. They're down and out, and it's just like it's either 8 out. People say, oh yeah, it's 1 out of 2. I think, man, I think it's like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Like it's
Imagine the happiest moment in your life for anyone watching this, male or female, and whether it's on a holiday, right? Say you don't have kids and it's the best holiday you've been on, or the new car or the new house you bought, and we just come and splash paint on it, or tell you the holiday's over. And think about how that feels at that moment. And some men are just going through everything's good one moment, and I might have cheated on the girl, which isn't cool, right, in a relationship. But now you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to put a family violence prevention order, whatever it's called, in the court system, and now you've got to prove that you're a good person.
Yeah.
And I think
that's going to take you years and a lot of money.
Yeah, to everyone involved, not just women, men and women, how for the best interest and outcome of the environment do you be respectful and mature so the kid in between you both learns good habits that they take into their life. And if it's a female, they have great boundaries to make sure that it doesn't happen to them. Someone isn't cheating on them. And if it's a male, how do you then talk respectfully, communicate with the right tone and you know the level of respect, even though you've been in a space and place you shouldn't have been. It's just.
I think with the whole DV world space is the government is giving incentive for people to claim DV, and by that I mean if you put a DV on someone, you get this $5,000 grant straight away.
Crazy.
Now you're entitled to more of the property pool. If you got a family court and DV is involved, you're entitled to more property pool. So of course, what happens is a lot of guys might split with their partner, and it's somewhat amicable. They're like, look, let's try and work out the property pool. Nothing to do with the kids. And they'll see the lawyers. The lawyer's like, no, you need to put a DV on them. So the lawyers are playing a part, and they're like, why? Because you'll be entitled to more. You get more of this. So
I could just imagine.
Yes, and they're like, oh, then they get coerced, like they get controlled. So it's like, because you get more of this, you get more of that, you get more super, you get more incentive, you know? Now there's this law passing in Queensland starting this month, 26th of May. This is crazy. Police will be able to hand out protection orders on the spot, like parking fines, if you've been coercive controlling against someone. So it's like a temporary, like a DVO but a police officer can just do it on the spot. So yeah, this is going to blow up. And this is the Minister of Domestic Violence who said, we need to protect our women and kids. What about the males? I upload footage of my ex belting me outside a restaurant. You will see me, I've got my hands up, I'm running away. I've uploaded footage of her hitting me through a car, and we'll put a DV on. Are you going to charge her? Didn't get charged. I couldn't believe that was me. I would be walking out of the courthouse, current affair, blah, 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 because I'm a big tatted up war veteran.
I got charged just based on her running in the police station.
Yeah.
Because she had a fear of the perception of who I used to be. Or who I used to be at that point in time. Yeah. And that's just BS, man. Yeah. Like, and I mean, like, how do we shift and change that? Where, like, once again, you go back to this conversation of, it's not a male or female who's going to win. It's like, what is right? Yeah, not who's right. What is right? And that's all you got to do. Like, to be able to just charge people without any evidence, and man, I'm sitting in court and they're burning me. Everyone's around court, and I'm like, I didn't touch anybody. What are you talking about? And you can't say nothing in the court, mind you. And I swear, I look left and everyone's like, oh, filthy bastard.
Yeah, woman basher.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, you know, I'm not even that person, man. What are you doing? And I was just blessed. But I think if we can understand, and I'll say this, and I want everybody, male and female, to understand this combo. Protect the victim, right? Totally agree. But say the person was a perpetrator. Guess what we do with the perpetrator? Lock him up, throw her the keys, scumbag, and all of the above. Now, you might think that, but more than likely they were a victim of abuse firstly. That's the first level. I'm not justifying DV either, just so you know. But if we don't role model that person to make a better choice neurologically, which we do a lot with the human brain, they're going to respond from what they know next time when they come home. And what do they know? The same thing, violence again. And this time it might not work out so right. So until we change the attitude and perception towards perpetrators and say, how can we role model them to make that better choice and show them what that looks like, we're always going to get the same outcome. And that means more and more women will be lost. And until we say, sit down, let's imagine doing it as a community and getting your mother and grandmother to sit on the panel with a whole bunch of women, not men bashing either. It's just like, how can we help you make a better choice, son, at the next opportunity? And at that point in time, when I grew up, my father, and it, once again, doesn't justify it, but we've identified your neurological pattern of behavior. This is neuroscience and data and how it actually works. It's like anyone wanting to change their habit. I'm going to get fit and healthy this new year. Bloke the perpetrator might have even a great intent, but he's got bad habits. And I'm still going to not justify it, but until we shift and teach them better habits and how to rewire their first response to a situation that pisses them off, we're going to get the same result. And if we keep just isolating them, we're going to keep putting them in a position where they haven't changed the behavior, they haven't rewired the first response, and next time they come home, they're going to act from the same spot. So for everybody out there, start thinking about how we can get everyone involved, not just protect the women and that's it, and the men are just scumbags. You're going to push them aside, and they're going to act the same way they are built from.
Yeah.
Period.
Sorry, I went off track there. Just to finish back on the child support. So 7 years later, you've come across Crystal. How'd you come across her again?
Social media, I
Social
believe.
media, yep.
Don't quote me. I think it was. Yeah.
Crystal used to work for child
support, yeah.
Yep.
For, I think she was there 14 years or something of that nature. I won't speak for her. I'll let her speak.
Yeah.
I've tried to contact her for it and get her on. But I think she just maybe saw some of those, the imbalance within the system, and went out and created a business that would help both sides.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, hopefully for the fathers that are watching and either having a battle, like I've got a battle with child support at the moment over financial binding agreement. Crystal, I read her at Insta before. Hopefully we can get her on.
I'd say to everyone that's going through that
follow
system,
her,
male or female, go through and have that conversation. And even as females, instead of going through the lawyers and getting that advice, you get victims money, you get this money. Go through maybe someone like Crystal and say, how can we? Yeah, if you're genuine,
we sort this out?
How can we sort this out?
Yeah, with minimal force.
Man, wouldn't you want to talk to each other?
Yeah.
Or wait a second, I'll grab my gun, you grab your gun, and we'll go to war. For what purpose?
Yeah, I know.
And for a kid that you both brought into the world, and we can be better. If we can be better, we should be better.
Yeah.
Period.
Mate, before we move on to the mindset stuff, you mentioned OzTag before.
Yeah.
Was it what you play many other sports growing up?
Touch,
yeah.
I played Australian schoolboys soccer.
Yeah.
Rugby
soccer.
league, same thing. So I was right into rugby league. When I got locked up in Melbourne, was out at Barwon Prison, and they're like, come out and play AFL. And I was like, I'm not playing that bullshit.
Yeah.
I have to say, when I went out and played it, hooked, and ended up playing Premier League up in Sydney. Loved it. Absolutely love it. It was
all-round athlete.
Yeah, I tried a whole heap of different sports, and Dad was very active. And, very disciplined. And that just rolled off into the life that I live today.
Mate, the mindset, where you at now, how did this come about? Post-prison, maybe it came about in prison?
Yeah, a lot of what we've spoken about with the kids, mate, you're full of shit.
Yeah.
And I had to, not many people can do that. Vulnerability is strength. I always say that, right? So come on here, even talk about the domestic violence charge, stuff of that nature. People won't do that because, you're woman bash or you're this.
Yeah, they're scared of being judged.
And in the end, people are always going to judge me one way or the other. And this is what happened. I know what happened. I sit well with myself, and how can I be better at the next opportunity? And those opportunities, that's all you can do in life. You got to understand, not everyone's going to like me, whether that's because of the bank robber title, whether it's because of the stories we've shared today. But a lot of people say, you know what, I wish I had the strength to actually be that strong and tell my story. And that's where I win. I don't care what someone thinks of me. I care about what I think of myself. And that means that if I want to define myself as a better dad, what do I need to take or do to be that better dad? And in the end, someone else's opinion of, he's not as good a father as Jared or whoever it may be, that's not what it's about. It's about you just being better for yourself every single day, and that's a different mindset in itself.
Yeah, because I know that I have some fathers watching now that will be down and out, and I know we spoke offline before, which, I know the position they're in. It's very easy to be stuck in there, very hard to get out. And, for me, I was like, I had to find purpose, which is easier said than done. But and then doing this podcast and getting people on, it's, giving me drive. So it's helped me switch that mindset. And for me, I just think, I don't say if my daughter comes back, my daughter will come back one day. And
love that.
Yeah, when she does, do I want her to see her walking in, just seeing some dude down and out, drinking, bendering, or is she going to come back and go, fuck, look at that, that's my dad.
Love that.
So
love that, man.
You got to switch that mindset, which is not as easy. I'm not going to say it's easy. It wasn't easy for me, but I just happened. I was supposed to go on my mate's podcast, and someone just said, "Why don't you do your own?" I found. I thought, fuck, you know what? Yeah.
That's
and
a
then
good idea.
that drive just came.
Do you know what it is? Identity. Like a lot of what we do is built. So my identity was bank robber, Jeffrey Morgan. Yours might have been Afghanistan, a soldier. You know, until you, we don't do it in school. Who are you? What do you want from life? What's your happiness look like? What's your success look like? And when I say success, I don't just mean financially. I'm talking about maybe the wealth that you have within your health of your brain and how you don't procrastinate or overthink something, sleep better at night. Those little moments are worth what? Priceless, right?
Yeah.
And if you can do that stuff and build that identity, as you said, when your daughter walks back in, she goes, "Well, what a warrior!"
Yeah.
And not a warrior, you know, an actual warrior that would stand up for what's right. And once again, same thing: protect women, protect society. As men, I'm talking about that masculinity. A lot of people are talking about that at the moment. Being strong when you need to be strong, and that doesn't mean physical. Just making better choices, not lashing out at somebody. Communicating really effectively with the person on the other side of the conversation, and that to me that's powerful. Like you know, have your daughter walk in and your chest is tall, you're proud. Look, I'm working, I'm paying my bills, I'm paying my child support. I've done my best to be a good father. That's all we can do.
Yeah, and I wanted to know that I haven't forgotten about it either. So that's another reason, not just for me. There's platforms for other fathers. They can leave messages, time and date stamp that might be in a position where they can't contact their children or can't see them, something like that. So
even record videos too.
Yeah.
Like even for yourself, something I did. Like just record videos and express yourself to your daughter or son.
Yeah.
And know that they'll be able to watch that one day and know that you were thinking about them.
Yeah.
You might not be able to communicate with them in real time, but at least do a video or text, a voice note or something of that nature. And when they come say, these are all yours.
Yeah.
And it was on the 1st of June, 2nd of June, 3rd
Time
of June.
dates,
And they go, wow, my dad actually thought about me every day.
Yeah.
My mum said otherwise. And I mean that nicely to someone but if someone's been that, what's the word, distasteful towards you as a father, and you say, no, I wanted to see it. Well, mum told me you didn't want to see me. Well, here's my stuff.
Yeah, someone gave me a good idea. They said you should make an email in. I won't say my daughter's name. We'll say my daughter's name's Wendy. Make it up. Say Wendy@gmail.com, and then I create the Gmail, and then I give it to my mum and my dad, and we can just send pictures and letters and emails to that Gmail, and then when she comes back, when she's older, we can give her the account and the password and go, here's all the all the time and dates.
Love that.
So, yeah.
And even like I've got a mate who's got a business encapsulator. So you record the video, and then a year later, it was around addiction, but you could do it as a father, and say a year later, I'm still, I just want you. You don't have to talk about the court systems. Just
anything.
I'm more. Just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I wonder what you do on a daily basis, and I can't wait to be able to do that with you, or whatever it may be. And they can open it. Here's a year, and then here's 2024, 2025, and the kids will just know that their father was thinking about them at that time. And for men, I think that's a great little tool.
Yeah. Mate, we were speaking offline. Centurion.
Yeah, so Centurions.
So how do you spell it?
Centurion, CENTURINS.
Right. Tell us a little bit about this.
So, like, same thing. We were boxing down at Bronny Beach one day, and we noticed how many men walked by, and they're like, "Oh, do you box here all the time, lads?" And it was me and another rough-looking fella, and all tats. They come up and they like start telling their stories, and a lot of them were men that have been through the court system with their children or not seeing their children. We realised that there was a real need for just men to be able to have a conversation and not feel judged. We started that group up, and we've sort of obviously grown the group over a period of time. We run 5 sessions every week. Those sessions are recorded in the group, and they could cover off anything from emotional intelligence, dealing with stress, unpacking trauma, through to business on the other side, because we want to make sure it's more holistic approach, your quality of life, nutrition, mindset, whatever it may be. It's been the blokes that I do have to say this. Some people come in and think that we'll do it for you, and we have no man gets left behind. Might have been a motto for yourselves or something of that nature. I have to say that when we say no man gets left behind, man means accountability, responsibility, and extreme ownership to who you are and who you want to be. And if you can't take that, then you're still making boy decisions, just as I have and I did. That became a huge part of the group at this point in time. But it is a space where you could grow if you let yourself let go of control to gain control. Listen, learn from someone that's been there. And we've got 4 facilitators, 5 sessions per week. And that's just a great place, not only to elevate your life, your mind, your business, but also more so be around other men and just be you. You know, I'm not having a good day, bro, and I can't see my daughter, or some, you know, we've got people in the group like that versus business owners that are very successful. And it's just a very safe space for us to actually have a conversation. And but you've got to show up. You got to want to show up and want to change.
Yeah, of course.
We have had men come through there and like, oh, you know, because of them, it's not, I can't do this. Because of yourself, you've got to take that ownership. And that's how I changed.
That's the first step, right?
Yeah, and that's the first step. And it's something we're very, I won't say strict, I'd say very
big on.
Yeah, you know, it's a good principle to, you've got to take that ownership. And we'll take people that have even been through domestic violence and perpetrators. And I say that because I don't want this person
to act again
in the same way. And it could be my sister or my cousin or my family or your family. They move from Sydney up to the Goldie, and you start seeing your sister or mother or something of that nature, and now something bad happens. So we will take them on, and we will have, like, you can have that conversation. But at that point in time, you've got to take that ownership and say, I don't want to be this person anymore, and act better at the next opportunity. And that allows us to say, hey, what we've done is actually working. And it's a good space to come into. And, you know, one of the biggest things I've learned in that group is sometimes it's not even about dealing with stress workshop or business, which would be great and give you financials for you and your children. It's just about being in a great space where you can just be around other men. And sometimes you just want to sit and be around men.
And what's that? So Centurions, what's that? Every Monday to Friday in the morning? Set days?
Sunday to Thursday.
Yeah,
7:30 p.m. every single night.
Oh,
and those sessions, if you can't make that, say you work shift or whatever it may be, they're all recorded, put into the app, and you can access them. Any questions that come up from that, you can say, hey, Jeff, with the dealing with stress, I didn't understand this part. Can you explain it more? Yep. And we'll usually put that in the chat. So if someone's got a question, everyone can answer that question. And as honestly, probably the biggest thing I've learned is just having that space where we can all get around each other. The facilitators we're human beings. We've got emotions and feelings as well. And some of the days with my daughter or son or have been tough, and I might get in there and just being able to sit around the rest of them, and I'm not facilitating that night, but I'm just sitting there, and they're like, did you want to say anything, Morgs? I said, no, I learned a lot tonight, thanks. And some nights it's just about 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen twice as much as you speak, and make yourself a better man. And get the courts to see that we are better, and we can be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's one of the most important things.
I like that, mate. So, anyone down in Sydney, New Bronte?
That's online, the Centurions.
Centurion online?
Yeah, it's all online. So that's just done via an app. Once you sign up to it, you can jump on any of the social pages, just type in Centurions, you'll find it. Yep. And then there'll be a link in that that you can actually get in contact. And mate, by all means, if you need a question answered or like you're unsure about something, reach out, have that conversation. Biggest thing I would say is, and I always say this to people more as a leadership coach, just take action. Find out over the first month, is this for me? If not, move on. And we're not here to tell everybody that our group's, the group and that there's nothing else in the world. Find what works for yourself, and if that can help you down that pathway. We were just talking about Meghan Markle writing those emails and letters. And then I had a bit of a thought process, people writing letters to their kids, that could be another one. I just thought, what about if someone doesn't get through those 2 years while they're waiting for the court and they die of cancer or something of that nature? And I just had a thought then, I was like, that's terrible. That's just sad, because no doubt, that would be insane.
The minimum you could resolve something. This is like best case scenario in the film. Like the minimum, it's a minimum 2 year wait. Like that was.
That's what I mean.
You're not solving anything. I was at the 3 year mark and I broke. We'll get nowhere.
Just realise.
And the system is like, you go to a pre-readiness trial. The whole point of a pre-readiness trial is they won't give you a date for trial unless they make sure. All right, have you crossed all your T's, dotted your I's? Yep. Have you crossed your T's? Yep. Okay, everyone's squared away. Now we'll give you a trial date. I rocked the trial. Like, oh no, we want to subpoena more material. That judge, that right there and then, should have said too bad, they say.
Had time.
But he goes, okay, come back in 4 months, and I'm just thinking, what's the whole point of pre-readiness trial? I've just paid my legal team to come to, like.
And 4 months,
4 months, yeah.
To them, 4 months is nothing. To us, 4 months is
missing out big time.
Every day, a tear that rolls down your eye, and I think that's why why didn't people stand up at Bondi for those that were being attacked, women that were being attacked? And I mean this nicely, like it's not an attack on women. It's a how we can be better as society, and that means that if you weaken a man, when the time comes, they'll be weak. And the time came, and everything I saw at Bondi, and you can tell me otherwise, I saw men running the other way, and people are like, well, he had a knife. Well, you've been to war, and I've been to war in the way I grew up, and I would have been moving the opposite direction, and I'm sure you would have been as well. And I don't know you from a bar of soap, but I just know that that's the way of operating. And I think if we can, how can we move towards something but with a solution to the problem? Otherwise we're just going to keep butting heads, and 4 months to one person is a lifetime to another.
Yeah, that's right. Time you can't buy time. Doesn't matter how much money you got. And my daughter turned 4 in April, and I've had one birthday with her first birthday for 1 hour, supervised in the supervision centre. I had to pay $110 an hour.
Yep.
And then I had her third Christmas for 5 hours at home. Lost an hour in the traffic each way.
Yep.
And that's it. I haven't had Easter. I haven't had.
Sad, like you never get that back. And what happens to men, like I said, that eventually you're proven right or not guilty or whatever it is in the court system. Is there any compensation for the 4 years you miss with? You tell me how much, if I take your kid away for 4 years for no reason, how much that's worth to you to be a male or female. I'm talking any male or female that watches this. What's it worth to yourself to get compensated for that?
Yep.
I can guarantee that there's no amount of money that can make up for those 4 years, and no one's ever coming to say sorry. No one, child support don't ring you up after you've dealt with it, which I did. I got it sorted really quickly, thanks, Crystal, to you. And I'm paying my dues, like as a father now, I'm trying to contribute and some. Like I'll talk to the mother who's very respectful, like I said. I need a laptop. No worries, let's contribute. You know what? You buy all the stuff. Usually I'll buy the laptop. And I record it all just for the sake of, I don't want someone coming saying you're not doing the right thing. But, like, how do you get that back? And it's just, and once I did that, child support didn't ring me and say, hey, you know what?
No, that's right.
Congrats and well done on being a great father, or, 7 years. How much did you spend on your lawyer's fees? We'll put it back in your account. No one ever does that, and it's just. And people will say, well, you should have been a better father at the start. Well, if I'd known, I would have been a better. In the last case, if I'd really known the DNA test, and realistically, it could have happened so quickly. In the end, it happened really quickly. Crystal made it happen quickly. And when we got the solution, I kept building on the solution. I think, take away that frustration of the courts, and let's just all communicate. That's the biggest one behind. Communicate effectively, not with who's going to win the fight, because there is no fight. It shouldn't be a fight. It should be about what's right for the environment. And what's right for the environment is how we role model our child, so they both parents are giving love, and the child grows up as best it possibly can in a fractured relationship.
I first time crawling and walking was all in a supervised care centre, just in a room like this big.
Wow.
My parents, I had to get my parents on the call order just to come. This is all from a woman that said no to me. So, I still haven't heard my daughter say a word. So she's high level autistic, speech delay, and what's it called, fingers, sensitive. Yeah. So that's okay.
There's one thing I would say, and I've got a brother who's one of the facilitators of Centurions, who had a son who was autistic. Took him to Dubai, and basically when he was over in Dubai, was able to they treated the treatment's different to Australia. Australia is very precious. Took him over there, and it was a bit more. I wouldn't say forceful, but more, like, here's what we're doing. This is going to happen, and the kid is totally different towards a kid of his same age, probably still in Australia, under the banner of autistic. This kid's functional, talking, starting to talk, and just blew me away, and blown both the parents away. Like, so for anyone out there that's going through that, they moved to Dubai for that, and I'll give them forever respect for that's fatherhood and motherhood at its greatest level. And I've learnt so much from them as parents. They're great parents, and to me, great friend, but also great role models as parents that I've taken away so much from.
Mate, have we missed anything?
I'd say we have done as much as we possibly could to hopefully impact the world in a better place and space, and that means that we all make a choice with the child's best interest and outcome at mind when we make it. Yeah,
that's right. Look, I think the highlight point there was the battle with child support, which it's ongoing for me at the moment. I literally was at the law firm recently. They've had to send another letter, blah, blah, blah. But other files going through it too. But I think Crystal is going to be a big one that a lot of people are going to follow and reach out to. I'm including myself. I'm going to flicker an email after this. So
love that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know how you go.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's your own personal matter, but just that there's a good outcome for everybody involved. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, I'm not us men are going to beat the women. I'm about how can we all best support the child.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it. The child's in the middle. It's not a competition.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us get caught up in, I see it all the time. We're going to win, us women, and male bash, and us men are going to be better than the women. Just be better as a human, be better as a mother or father, and that means role modeling that child in the middle.
Yep.
What would you do if, what could we be doing, and what should we be doing for that child? How would you speak to your mother or sister, or how would you speak to your father or brother? Do that in that space and be respectful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, mate, I've got some conclusion questions here.
Let them rip.
And it's the same six questions. The same 6 questions asked my guests. Now, I do have guests on. Some will be a female lawyer, so they are tailored for father. But whether I've had a daughter on or a lawyer, female, I ask the same questions and just get them to answer it as best as they can. But you're a father and you've gone on the system, so you should be able to answer these questions. But the first one, someone on Instagram asked this question, so I'll get this one out of the way first.
Stitch up.
This is
one of my mates.
Okay, so it's quite a in-depth question. It's from Claire. So Claire asks, I have a question. Whether a life coach can answer, I don't know. But when we know women who are behaving like this, how do we change their mindset? Whether we are acquaintances, friends, or family, how can we influence and change the narrative? How can we provide impact without these women cutting us off too, so that we can provide influence and help the men in these situations? How do we influence them to change their habitual lies? How can we be the influence when we don't suit their narrative? That's 6 questions in one.
Yeah. I think the biggest one, going back to that Socratic method, if I tell you to stop something, pride and ego is going to get in the way, and any person is going to say, don't you fucking tell me how to live my life. Period. They might not say that personally, but they'll just sit there and go, and body language is everything. Straight away you know that you obviously hit a nerve, and the potential for you to get the shift and change that you want's not going to happen. If you can understand and speak the language of, and go in a roundabout conversation, which means whether it's about respect, and you're talking about respect in a whole nother place, maybe they're talking about some sport or the things on the news, and you talk about, would you say that's a form of disrespect? And yes. And I'm like, so you get them to answer it in a way. And I learned this from the court system, believe it or not. And then I got taught later on that it was the Socratic method. And what it was, the police prosecutor would lead you down a path, and then you've said stuff, and now when he asks you a particular question, you can't say that you didn't, because you said you were this model. So by getting them to say, oh, that's disrespectful, and I'm like, oh, so how do you find that disrespectful? I'm asking that question. I know what I want to get out of that person. And once they elicit the answer back, or I've elicited the answer, got it out of them, I'm able to then say, so what's different in the situation around you and the way you conduct yourself? Yeah. And they're like, nothing, eh? And they sit there and you can see this light bulb literally bang. Yeah. But because if I say, you're disrespectful, they're like, stuff you. Who are you to tell me? Yeah. No, I'm not. Well, Jared carries on like that. That's why I'm like that. They'll justify it. Whereas if I say, oh, so do you find that disrespectful? And they're like, yeah, how do they treat old women like that? Like, so what would be the difference between your behaviour and that? And then they're sitting there and you see them going, they know they can't answer.
Yeah.
Because they've just said,
so they got to back up what they said.
So now you've got to be a hypocrite or contradiction to what you just said. So once you can understand that, sometimes you've got to listen and you go, how am I going to get through to this person? And sometimes it might take 4 conversations where you come back and you've still got it, but you've finally got to a point where you know the question is going to bring the answer you want. And that's how I got really good at what I do, because I'm able to ask the questions. I know the answers you're going to give me. And I'll lead them down a path and they'll say, now tell me why it's different in this spot. And I'll sit there and go, oh, it's not A. So it's all me, right? And I'm like, I don't know, is it? And they're like, yeah, it is. And so now that you know that, would you like to change it? Would you like some tips, strategies, tools, tips to change that? Yeah, I would.
Yeah, well said.
And at that point in time, we shift and change. And I know this a lot of people probably want to, especially being a soldier yourself, but I always hear, what happened with Aboriginal people was a long time ago. And if I say, well, to the person, well, so were the Anzacs, so what do we, don't worry about it. Yeah. And they'd be like, how dare you, And I'm like, but what's the difference? We're all human beings, man. Like, you'll put, now, unconscious bias, it's a black or white thing. And I'm like, you put colour in it, you're just going to win. Or you put religion or race, or now our race is better, our religion is better, rather than what is right. Not who's right, what is right. And man, like, we can say as Aboriginal people, this is our country, but you know what? I salute every soldier that fought for our country, and I'll go and pay respects every single day. But you know what? Come and pay respects for our soldiers that fought for, craziest thing, Jared, around this, Pemaway fought for women and children who were being treated badly. Let's put it that way. And that's a nice way. Do the rest, do the mass. Watch Australian Wars, which is the journals of the first settlers and what they did to our people. And then we celebrate them. And I'm like, how do you celebrate people that, let's be real, rape people, and I'm talking women and children, and shoot women and children for playing on a beach that was sent to the Queen, and this is factually journaled by them. So I'm not, and he's saying, those white people, I'm not into that bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm into, is that right? Like, your kid, you'd want to do bad things to me too. If I did something to you or your kids or your family, anyone would. So why is it okay? And when you get people to see it that way, so even on that whole conversation, how do I get people to understand that without saying stuff the Anzacs? Because I'm not into that either. But how do I get them to say, what's different then? Tell me, can you explain how you came to that conclusion? That
how did your mind get there?
And they're like, stuff you black people suck anyway. And I'm like, well, now we know how we got there. There's racism or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And I mean that just to explain to people. But that person, if you can really put yourself there and ask yourself, and someone else is going to have to ask that person those questions.
Have you done counselling courses or something?
I've done a lot around mental health, brain.
I feel like neuroscience. You obviously know how to talk to people in a certain way too, right? And to get a message across too.
A lot of it's NLP, but I didn't even know what NLP was when I came home. But
what's that stand for again?
Neuro-linguistic programming. Okay. So people that are out there, that means that your brain's programmed a particular way. So when I say something, even if I say Aboriginal people go, "Oh, drunks." It's like the first response, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, tell me the difference on a Friday afternoon when everyone finishes work, they all go to the pub and get blind drunk and nose beers.
Yeah.
Like, I could say who's really the drunks, but I'm not going to get into who's right, who's wrong. Just what's right, what's truthful, right? And that's where, when you realise, and that person that asked this question, ask yourself, is it really bringing you the outcome you want? And they say, yeah, it is, because stuff them, I mess them up, but that causes them stress the whole time. Are you really winning? You think you're winning, but you're stressed out all your life. Who wants to be stressed out all your life? Not me. So what's causing you stress? You continuing to put up the blockage or whatever it is until you say, you know what, I'm just going to let go, and we're going to do it for the best interest of the child in the middle. And you know what? The stress is gone and I feel so much better, and I've got respect built into me. I've got boundaries now. And then it's a better outcome for everyone. Yeah. Period. And it's just like, who wouldn't want that?
Well said. All right, so these are the conclusion questions.
Let it rip.
The first one. Any advice for fathers? Knowing what you know now, would you have changed anything during the court process? I could probably answer that.
Not what you know, but who you know.
Crystal.
That would, like...
That 7 years could have gone straight to Crystal, right?
Straight away. Like, I'm telling everyone on here, and Crystal, you owe me some money.
You're going to get a commission.
I don't know. I don't want nothing.
I'm not joking.
Always, same thing with Centurions. We started just for the best interests and outcome of the environment, for men be better. Same thing. I hope Crystal's business, because she's getting that for people, compressing time. How much is time worth? Priceless. And getting us an outcome. And I think she deserves everything that she's gone down the path of. And shout out to her, man. Because my mental health went from zero to hero in a day once she sorted everything. And, I know that the heaviness, even when I'm talking to you today and others that have been there, done that, and those shoes that we've seen on the lawn out at Canberra, that's like someone like Crystal can take that away by knowing the system. And it's just not what you know, it's who you know.
Do you reckon the system, with that said, do you reckon because Crystal's ex-child support, right?
As far as I know, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Would I be wrong in saying that there's a problem with the system, or that the system is designed a certain way, unless you're from the system, you know how to malfunction, you know how to short circuit it, you know what I mean? Like there's a system design, but how can no one beat it? But you get someone from the system and go, oh, you need to do this.
I don't even think it's designed wrong. I think it's designed to protect people, right, in their eyes. So then you get workers that are in there to protect people, and they're just doing their job. They go and they get paid $1,000 a week. So now here's point A, Jared, how come you haven't done this? You're not following up. You're not to do this. And they just follow, the book. Yeah. And we need someone at a higher level to go in and audit the system and say what's happening and how long does it take. It takes 7 years to get to a solution, and we're not even at a solution. And that's the average. Is that a great outcome for the kid?
No.
So then, all right, so what do we do to fast track this and protect everyone and everyone gets equal rights? And unless you, through the non-negotiable, we had a yarning circle, Jared, as Aboriginal people, and we used to all sit around. No one was more important than the next, but the elders would lead the charge, and equal. And why couldn't you sit around and do exactly that and say, what should we do, not do? What time do you want them back? If they breach that, you're meant to bring it back at 6, but you're bringing it back the next day, mate, you lose a week or something. Whatever. You set those non-negotiables, and then that's on you to be responsible as a parent to bring it back at 6. And I love you. I'll see you Tuesday again or whatever it may be. And that's just a better outcome.
You know what? It doesn't blow my mind. It doesn't surprise me at all, but this is the problem with child support. You're at the airport, you're on the phone going, oh, shit, you've identified a problem to me. Here's a solution. Here's my card. Nah. The AFP sticking up for you. Going, hold on. I'm
Three
like,
of those.
And ABF, I can hear you. I've heard what you've been saying earlier. The guy's got his credit card out. He's going to, he's going to solve this solution right here and now. Nah. Just like, Jesus Christ.
I think in every workplace, like this is the biggest thing. You're always going to get bitter people, not better people. And I think think if they're maybe working there so long,
Power trip, you reckon? They got powers.
Whether it's that, whether I don't know what it is, and I don't know each case will be
Case
variable.
to case,
You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's like criminals too. Back in the day, you got some that are straight lunatics, and I'm like, man, they're going to do some serious damage. Then you got people in survival mode, and then you got people on drugs. You got your different tiers, and I think they might go in with the I want to help people, and by the end of it, being there. Stuff you, I want to see my daughter, and I'm screaming down the phone, then you're screaming down, next bloke. They just end up bitter, like they get on the phone. And so I can't say that every person's like that. I can say, it's very rarely that back in the day I would have said, the police, the Border Force and the AFP at the airport, big ups to them, because he said, do you mind if I take the phone? And he jumped on and actually said, mate, the bloke's trying to have a crack.
Right.
Let's all sort it out, and we'll escort him to the plane, and he can get on his holiday, and you're happy, he's happy, and he said he'll sort it back. He's given you the new address. I've checked his license, his passport, his number you got, and she just, I think sometimes, and it could be a bad day, it could be how they build it, it could be better over time. How do we be better over time? That's probably the best one out of all of it. So if you are a child support worker and you're working in that space, as much as try and answer the phone with a new lease of life when you answer
new person,
to you.
different clean
and if they're respectful to you, give it back. If they're not, even then, be the role model of respect. Because if you're saying, listen, buddy, I'm going to make sure it's hard for you, Jared, like, you're going to create friction. And friction's going to piss you off in the day. You're going to carry it home into your own kids or your partner and feel like shit. And unload it onto them. So might as well just say, you know what, Jared doesn't know what respect is, or Morgs doesn't know what respect is. I'm going to show him what it is. Hey, I'd appreciate if you spoke to me with a better tone. I know you're stressed out, and I know it's hard with your kid, and have empathy for that person in that space, no matter how fired up they are. Because if you hit fire with fire, you're going to, you know, it's just big explosion. If you calm that, you put some water on that fire, you calm the situation down. Be the role model of that space. So if you're a child support worker or some form of nature, social work or whatever it may be that version that person might not have seen or been themselves. And you actually help me, as an example, say, oh, wow, she really handled that well. And you know what? I'm going to role model myself from that person.
Yeah, I like that.
Priceless.
All right. Question number 3. Oh, this is going to blow your mind.
Let's go.
It's because you'll laugh when I fucking read it to you. You're on death row. The guard comes and asks you what you want for your final meal, drink, and dessert.
There's a place in Sydney. It's called That Dessert Shop, and it is banger souffle Biscoff pancakes.
Oh, Biscoff.
That
is that the Japanese pancake?
Yeah, there's. It's just like,
bro, yeah.
It's soft. It's
big
like,
lineup, I bet, just to get in.
No, not really. I don't reckon they've blown up enough. I don't think a lot of people don't know, which I'm pretty cool.
It's good. It's blown up now.
But let me tell you, That Dessert Shop, it's in North Bexley or Bexley. Just type that in, you can't miss it. And it's the Japanese souffle pancake. Biscoff pancakes. Oh, they are banger. What was the other? Drink.
So you drink, what do you wash it down with?
Oh.
And a main meal. So
I'm not fussed. Lychee, you know what? I love lychee drink, actually.
A lychee drink? Yeah, I like lychee. Lychee juice on.
That's probably my favourite. The rest I just drink for the purpose of hydration.
Yeah, hydration,
whatever it is.
And what about main meal?
Main meal? Oh. Probably would have the souffle. Main meal, I'd do a curry, man. And when I was a kid, Aboriginal people, we'd eat a loaf of bread, butter, more butter than
like
bread.
Like a stew curry.
And just tip
it in there,
bread through the curry.
Yeah.
Oh, heaven.
Beautiful.
Heaven.
Question number 4. If you were in a room with every single person you'd met or interacted with on this journey, who was the first person you'd be drawn to and why? So the journey could be from starting from your kid, criminal days, the child support, whatever, just the whole journey in life, the process. Who would be the first person you'd be drawn to and why?
It'd be my kids, man.
Yeah.
Talking today, and like probably the younger version of them to build that relationship that I never had, and It's like, it's still hard, man.
Yeah.
My son, you know, I'm in a battle with him and my daughter, and I mean that respectfully to them if they watch it. And I understand, because I wasn't there for 15 years, so I made them feel any less than, you know, a daughter or son to me. So it's hard, and you know, but I'll be drawn to them. And then my grandmother, man, she was just such a voice of guidance, and never had any hate towards anyone. And her, you know, her family went through the stolen generation. She never once said, "Don't you ever get caught up in that bullshit." And the bullshit was racism. And she said, "The human race, like you just treat everyone." 4 words when I walked through that door: love, kindness, empathy, and respect. That was the password. And to the point where my mates used to go, love, kindness, empathy, and respect. And we'd be paying out on me.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, love, kindness, empathy, and respect. But you know, I stuck with me forever. And if you treat people like that, or you treat your ex-partner, even if they've cheated on you like that for the sake of the child, the world will be a better place.
Yeah, beautiful, man. 2 left. What strategies or tips helped during the process that you could recommend to any listeners? So maybe during that 7-year battle, what any strategies to help you through those dark days?
I journaled, man, heaps. Like I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and I wrote by the ocean personally, and usually tried to get some sun, whether it was sunrise or sunset, and then just sat there and sat with myself, listened to the birds, connected to nature, and then you really start to control your emotions. And you know, I did 4x4 box set for people: in for your nose for 4, hold for 4, out for your mouth for 4, repeat.
Yeah, I heard this. Yep.
But I did that before I knew anything. I just and whether I did 4 seconds, now it's 4x4. But like for me, it was just like in for your nose, hold, same amount of time, breathe out, same amount of time, go through the same process. And I'd journal, and I found like when people would piss me off, I'd just be able to like pause for a moment. And the other one was pause before I responded, because
let the emotions settle.
Yeah, because you respond from what your filter is. You're listening for what you need to hear. And when child support doesn't tell you, you're like, listen, man, I'm doing my best. And you're starting to escalate. Whereas if you are able to listen to what they're saying, say, what you said was that I need to fill out section A and B. Is there, and you might, like, I already did that last week, but now you want B1 and 2 and 3 as well. Can I just ask you, is there any more that I need to fill out just so I don't have to come back again? And that way you pause for a moment, then respond from that space. A lot of people just want to jump straight in, and, you know, I could tell you, I'm going to Dubai I went to Dubai, and, you know, and they want to tell you their story rather than saying, I'm actually listening to what you're saying, Jared. Yeah. And pause and say, how was it? How did you find it? And sometimes you might walk away and they didn't even know that you went to Dubai, and that's cool too. Next conversation, maybe you're talking about when you went to Dubai. Yeah. And that person can listen to your story. And did you check out that restaurant? Oh, no, I didn't. Next time I'm going there. But what we tend to do is, you went to Dubai? Yeah, well, I went, and I want to one up here. Yeah. Oh, you went to that restaurant?
Yeah. Oh, but I did this. Yeah.
I jumped out of the sky. Yeah, I dived with sharks.
Yeah. I jumped out with no parachute.
And then it becomes a competition.
Yeah, dick swing contest.
That comes back to the same thing, to child support. Like, it's who's going to win. Yeah. It's not who's going to win. The kid's losing. That's it. What's the best outcome and the best interest for the environment? What's right for the kid? And that's it. Yeah. Like, take your ego and pride out and get out of both your own ways, because you're killing your kid. Yeah.
Mate, nailed that one. Mate, last question. Any message for your children?
I love you, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's very hard.
Yeah. It's a hard question for this one.
It's you make the choices you're built with, and sometimes they're not the right ones. But you always say you die for your kids. I'd die for my kids. Yeah. Man. And they probably think otherwise, but I would. And it's hard. Yeah. It's tough, man. Yeah. My life's a very good life. Everything's pretty much in order. Probably just there, you know. Yeah. It's a battle, man. And like, if I'm in this spot when I don't have court, what would fathers be like who have court? Yeah. That's what. I know it sounds bad, but that's what gives me strength. I'm like, you're not as bad as, it's not as bad as you think. Sometimes, even if they're texting back, you weren't a father or something of that nature, at least a texting, and maybe this, I can explain myself, or I wasn't built well, and you know what, I wasn't a father, and I own it, and it doesn't mean it's right. It'd be good to hang out or something, and one day one of those texts might land, whereas someone going through court might have 7 years where they don't even get a text. So I'm blessed.
And you know what, I try and find I always try and find the negative and the positive, and I'm not trying to compare, but you know, I had a lawyer on a while back, and I didn't know he was a father, because at the end I asked him this question, I didn't know kids, and he said, well, I did have a child, but he passed.
Wow.
And I just said, like, you know, like, but he goes, but one day I'll be a father again, and I just thought, you know what, there's always someone else doing it fucking tougher. You know what I mean?
100%. There's a thing I use, and I used it way back when. I used to find 3 positives for every negative. Then I turned it into what I call 3-2-1 mapping. 3 positives for every negative. Then you've got 2 choices, but 1 decision. Be a shitbag, or be sad, or be negative, or you can go on the other side. Be positive, be happy, be a good person. And then you make that 1 decision. And that 1 decision, once again, is for the best interest of the child in the middle. And I take all of me out of it and all of her out of it, and no matter what she did to me or I did to her, how can we just be the good parents? Because we both brought this kid into this world.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
once you do that, that's just a better outcome for the world, because now you've got 2 less stressed people, you've got a kid that feels loved, and that kid goes out and actions the dreams that they want to action in this world, and that's priceless.
Yeah. Mate, well, that's the wrap, mate. I know we've been chatting for some time, mate, and it's good to finally have you on and meet you. Again, I want to acknowledge you guys have flown up here, paid for your flights, the car. You guys are busy. You got a meeting somewhere after this. So, but you know, I appreciate it. My listeners and viewers will appreciate it too. But, mate, on the behalf of the Broken Fathers podcast, mate, I'd like to thank you for coming on and opening up and sharing your story. And you know, I have no doubt that fathers are going to take something out of this. I am. I'm emailing Crystal straight after this. So, you know, everyone takes something different from each episode. And, I wish you guys nothing but the best moving forward this year. And, mate, hopefully if I'm in Sydney, I'll let you know. If not, if you're back up here, mate, let's catch up.
Mate, you got my number, and anybody out there...
if sorry to cut you off, if anyone wants to reach out to you.
jeffreymorgan.com.au.
Yep.
Shoot us a contact thing, because that's easier for me. Like, if you try and text me, whereas if you shoot a context of what you're trying to achieve and come through the website, where it's easier for us to get back to you. But, mate, reach out anytime. It's been a pleasure. And, you know, I come on in hope that somebody picks up one thing that we put down.
I've had so every episode.
Crystal, it could be a tool we gave you today that just helps you stay on this planet and be there for your child, because in the end, your child does want you there. And as much as it might be the courts that are beating you up, or the child support system, or, you know, whatever it is on the other side, remember your child's not the one beating you up, and that's what you're there for. And be strong about that. And if you can't, reach out to me anytime, man. I'm there for anybody as best I can be. Beautiful.
Thank you, bro. You've had an eventful life, man. And, mate, I appreciate you sharing it. I know we sort of fast-tracked it a bit, but, once again, have a safe flight back, and I wish you guys all the best.
Better life loading, and thanks for having me, bro.
Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Love.
Dude, bro. Thank you, my man. Appreciate it.